Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast presented by CoolBet. Stay cool, my friends, and use promo code Dog or Pass when making your new account. They'll give you a match up to $200 on your first deposit. 3x rollover, I believe, on that, and lines under minus 200, but that's probably about just as easy of a rollover at any sort of sports book you could ever ask for. They don't want you depositing and then just taking $600. You got to bet a little bit, but it's really not that hard to get through. They've been good to us. Hopefully we've been good to them. But Cody, last week's card was pretty good to us.
Yeah, last week's card was really good to us, Paul. I think it was the bounce back that we needed, considering that the last few UFCs have been shaky from a parlay standpoint. Even though we had a lot of success and we did a lot of good parlays last week, this week's card just looks like a landmine. And I'm really glad that we're here breaking it down today, because it looks like more underdogs may win than favorites. Of course, that's likely not the case. So we got to differentiate who is a legitimate underdog that's going to cash for that plus money and who we're just chasing that value, and it's going to end up being dead money. But there's a lot of fights, and it seems like there's a very strong argument for a vast majority of the underdogs. We're not alone in that thought process. It seems like there's a lot of popular underdogs being floated around, but the lines aren't moving. So if everybody likes them, how come the line's not moving, Paul Shaughnessy? That's what we got to figure out, man.
100%. And like in the last few weeks, like, you know me, I'm the dog better. And then I saw in the Discord, which if you want to get involved in any of that, we break down like regional scene stuff, plus a little bit more content. If you want more stuff from us, more engagement with us, link is in the description for all of that good stuff. But I saw this morning, Cody's like, I like a lot of underdogs. And I'm like, oh God. Cody's usually the one talking me out of underdogs. This should be a very interesting show if he's saying that he likes so many underdogs. I don't know if I'm the right guy to try to talk some sense into him. But as they say, pitter patter, let's get at her. Song Yadong takes on Henry Cejudo in the main event, minus 270 for Song Yadong. Hank, Henry Cejudo, the king, the short king, as he is calling himself these days, can be at for plus 220. Your thoughts on the main event, Cody?
Yeah, I think that there's maybe some better underdogs than Henry Cejudo, but he's a plus money guy that I'm looking at. You've got a lot of back class there. Someone that's won an Olympic gold medal in freestyle wrestling, a flyweight world championship in the UFC, and then a bantamweight world championship. I'm usually pretty pessimistic in that we'll look back at a vast majority of those Henry Cejudo fights, and you can pick them apart. His best win, Demetrius Johnson. I don't think he won that fight. He got outstruck. By the numbers, he officially got outstruck 81-51 and won a split decision. TJ Dillashaw's one and only fight at 125 pounds. He knocked him out. It was a terrible weight cut. Never tried that again. He beat Marlon Moraes. After that, everybody beat Marlon Moraes. I think he's on a 6 or 7 fight losing streak right now, retired officially, with like all 7 of them being inside the distance. Dominic Cruz recently retired. So again, you could be very nitpicky, but the thing with Henry is that he kind of plays himself. He goes on this double champ status, flyweight, bantamweight, wins a streak of not exactly the biggest fights, but definitely the most popular fights. And then he just demands a boatload of money from the UFC. Problem is, UFC, they don't like short kings. They don't like flyweights. They don't like bantamweight's their best division. But for the most part, they're like we don't care. So Henry doesn't fight for 3 years. And that difference between like 33 and 36 when he comes back, he's 38 now, but 36 when he comes back for Aljo. Like, I just feel like the best years of his career maybe got wasted a little bit. But let's not forget that we got a lot of back class here, championship stature guy. How does he do in those 2 comeback fights? Well, the first one against Aljamain Sterling. Again, he gets a couple nice takedowns. He gets some decent top control. Aljamain also gets takedowns. They're going back and forth. I feel like Henry started to slow down the longer that fight went because it was a 5-round fight. Gave a good account of himself, just the volume's not quite there. Then he gets Merab Dvalishvili, and it's a weird one. See, he's got to defend like 20-some takedown attempts. Merab's constantly on him, just motoring. He never really has a chance to really kind of get himself into a certain pace, but rocks Merab hard with a left hook in the first round. Striking looks good. There's just no space there. And then just like that, bam, you're on a 2-fight losing streak. You're almost borderline irrelevant. First time, I think his last 6 or 7 fights have all been on pay-per-view. One of them was on the first ESPN card, so it was like, basically a pay-per-view, but He's being regulated here. 2-fight losing streak, 38 years old, on a fight night in Seattle. Like, he really needs to show up and show out. And I feel like he'll be highly motivated to do so. The key here being is that he does have that wrestling. Yeah, he's been striking with guys, but Aljamain's a high-level grappler, high-level wrestler. Is a high-level wrestler grappler. It's hard to get it going against them. Song Yadong, it's the key. It's the key to beating him. One, every time you've seen him in a 5-round fight, for the most part, he tends to tire himself and start to slow down and take a lot of damage the longer these fights goes. But the other thing is that there's been a blueprint. First loss in the UFC, it's not a loss, it's a draw against Cody Stamann. A robbery draw. Should have lost. But he got taken down 5 times in that fight, largely controlled. You could see right there was a problem. Against Kyler Phillips, he's a favorite over Phillips. Loses. Uh, got taken down 3 times and controlled. It's the second time you've seen that exact same thing kind of get exploited. Casey Kinney took him down. Corey Sandhagen took him down. Ricky Simone took him down. It's that last fight with Peter Yan. So Peter Yan's he's not really a wrestler. Yeah, he can hit you with a little foot sweep or a quick little takedown, but even he's able to take down Song Yadong and have some decent top control with it. So the thing with Henry is that he's wily. Like, he moves a lot. He's to the left, he's to the right. All of a sudden he clams you with an overhand right, and then he's out of dodge again. So Song Yadong, every fight that I've watched him, his last number of fights, he's so flat-footed in the pocket looking to exchange. Long range guys like Corey Sandhagen, like Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez outstruck him 87-77. He's getting actually outworked standing because he just stands in the pocket. Gutierrez strikes him at range. It's his ability to take Gutierrez down that wins him that fight. He doesn't take Henry down. So now he's waiting for Henry to engage him, and Henry's bobbing in and out and sprinkling in takedowns. Super interesting. Would I rather it be a 3-round fight than a 5-round as a Henry backer? Yeah, I think so. 3-round fight? I think I got this guy. 5-round fight? Yeah, who knows? But I had similar sentiments last week with Jared Cannonier. I liked it better in a 3. And last week in a 3, I get a draw. In a 5, I'd take this guy out. Not saying Henry takes him out, but it's his 3rd fight back now. I feel like he's going to come out and give the best performance that he's able to put on the table, and that should be enough to, again, control some of the striking, mix in that wrestling. And for this number, it's a much closer and competitive fight than this number suggests. My hands are tied, Paul. I will take Triple C to get the victory. So give me Henry Cejudo.
Yeah, I don't have too much to disagree with there. Henry's taken on the 2 best guys in this division over the last 5 years. In his last 2 fights, and he came away a loser in both of them. But Merab is an absolute tank, cardio machine. It's tough to get any sort of wrestling going, and just being able to get the full distance there against a guy like that who sets a pace like that was impressive enough. Watching the Aljamain fight back, he was definitely tired, but it's you have to remember, it was a 3-year layoff at that point. We didn't think Henry was ever actually going to come back to the octagon. Best bet on the board for this fight, at least on Coolbet. They still have it right now. Numbers move. Odds and lines are subject to change. You know the drill on that. But fight goes to the distance, -143. I mean, Henry's not like a power puncher by any stretch of the imagination. Doesn't have too much of a submission game. Hasn't finished too many guys himself. Song Yadong has been finished a couple times. Those are against very, very elite strikers. And Henry just went the distance, 5 rounds with or went the distance with the best 2 guys from the division in the last 5 years. So I expect this fight to go to the decision. If you want to get even a little bit more greedy, a little bit more crazy, there's Henry Cejudo by split decision props out there at 10-1.
Yeah, that's not terrible either.
This is the exact type of fight that it's you have wrestler and striker. Henry gets those takedowns, but then he gets boxed up at the end of the round or something like that. Or the opposite is he gets boxed up a ton in the first half. Finally, he's able to get a takedown. It has all the recipes for a split decision. Plus, we're in a commission. I know a lot of the times, especially for the main event fights, earlier fights down the card, if you think they're going to decision, it can be a nice little edge that they start having judges that don't usually do UFC. They do have regional people for early prelims, but once you get to the main event or even the main card, it's your Sal D'Amatos, your Chris Lee's. It's always your regular guys, but those guys aren't above messing up a scorecard either. But yeah, this fight has all the recipes for a split decision. So buyer beware on money lines, anything like that. But yeah, if you can't beat them, join them type of situation. So I'm going to be looking for some of those split props. But as I said, the safe favorite play, I suppose, here is the fight goes the distance over 4.5 rounds. I quite like that. Like between these two guys, they both kind of slow down over the course of 5 rounds. If it's a high pace fight, I see high pace for 3 rounds and then kind of cruise control. Very, very close fight. But yeah, give me the dog in a very, very close fight. Co-main event, we've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Brendan Allen, minus 280 for Fluffy, plus 240 for Allen. Who you got here?
Yeah, I don't really want to say it, but I almost feel like Brendan Allen's going to go out there and spring the upset. Now, anybody that knows me knows that Fluffy Hernandez, my boy. Jacob Malkoun, my boy as well. They fight pretty well the same style, which is that they're not necessarily the most technical guys going. Striking's not great. Wrestling's not really great. It's just, boy, oh boy, they got really good gas tanks and they just stick to you like mud the entire time, drag you down, rinse and repeat. Eventually, you get tired, they take over. When I said I'd like Henry more in a 3-round fight, but it's a 5-round fight, if this is a 5-round fight, I got Fluffy all day long. But in a 3-round fight, it's like the line's a little blown up for my liking. So let's just talk about the faults that Anthony Hernandez has right off the hop. So his debut in the UFC against Marcus Perez, he gets his ass kicked. He gets his ass kicked standing, he gets taken down, he gets mauled on, he gets choked out. That's a debut, so you give him a pass. His fight with Jung Young Park, he's got outstruck 81-59 standing, but the 6 takedowns bail him out. He's not a striker, okay? Not a striker. And so when Kevin Holland knocks him out in 39 seconds, it's actually not that surprising. You've seen him get stung in a bunch of fights standing. He rushes forward. His hands are really, really low. And he's there to get hit. So when he gets TKO'd by Kevin Holland, it's like, okay, well, shit happens. Fair. His fight with Josh Frem. Actually, right before. Okay. Rodolfo Vieira. Now, we just saw Rodolfo Vieira last weekend. Can't get a takedown to save his life. You remember the Chris Curtis fight where he went for 0-20? Can't get a takedown to save his life. Well, he fights Fluffy. Yeah, everyone remembers the Fluffy guillotine choke and Rodolfo gassing out. The first 3 minutes of that fight is Rodolfo styling on him. He gets 4 takedowns. He mounts him. He's beating him up. And he gasses out. Shit happens. His very next fight with Josh Frem. Josh Frem's credited with 1 takedown. You watch that fight, Frem actually gets 2 takedowns. One of them is a reversal. He's off his back. He sits up, spins to a single leg, gets a takedown. Second one's a double leg right up against the cage. And that's the theme that we're going to start getting into. Fluffy Hernandez then fights a pile of strikers. They can't really wrestle. And he offensively wrestles the head off all of them. But defensively, he's not that good of a wrestler. He's got a 65% takedown defense. He gave up takedowns to Marcus Perez. He got taken down by Rodolfo Vieira, Josh Frem with 1, but really it was 2. Edmund Shabazian takes him down. There's a path there. This is by far the best wrestler, grappler he's taken. I'm not saying Brandon Allen's a very good wrestler, but it's by far the best wrestler, grappler that he's taken on in quite some time. So this fight starts, and we're all expecting Fluffy to just immediately move forward and shoot the takedowns. But 2 things could go wrong. Thing number 1, if this fight for whatever reason really didn't hit the ground, then standing, Brandon Allen's a better striker than Fluffy Hernandez. He doesn't show getting rocked in a bunch of these fights. Edmund Shabazian rocks him in the first round. Michel Pereira absolutely rocks him in the first round. Kevin Holland takes him out. Marcus Perez and Jung Young Park both hurt him. Brandon Allen can beat him standing. Okay, well, what if he just tries to chain wrestle him the entire time? Fair. Well, my other boy, Jacob Malkoun, fought Brandon Allen a few years back, and he tried to do the same thing. Got 7 takedowns on Brandon Allen, tons of control time, but you're not doing anything with it. You're just taking him down. He's landing short elbows. He's causing the scrambles. He gets outworked. He loses the fight. So, again, there's the possibility of that as well. When I look at Brandon Allen, it's like there's a lot of stuff that I don't particularly care for, but you know that he's a pretty elite grappler type guy. Submits Andre Muniz. You can't take that one away from him. Stuffed basically everything Malkoun had to offer for him. Paul Craig, he chokes out Paul Craig. That's got to count for something. But then the Chris Curtis fight, 6 takedowns, but they didn't materialize. He was forced to strike with Chris Curtis for the majority of that 5 rounds. He did just fine. His right hand's come a long way. He's got decent kicks. Big guy, 6'3", stays to the outside. I think he's got the striking advantage. I think he could offensively shoot the takedowns before Fluffy Hernandez has a chance to get going. Then he can put him on his back foot. When Fluffy does end up on his back, you'll see him accept positions a lot. And when he shoots his own offensive takedowns, a lot of guys attack his neck. Tons of guys attack. They haven't got it, but Shabazian had a nasty guillotine choke. Josh Frem had a nasty guillotine choke. Rodolfo, I suppose that one's kind of expected. And then Marcus Perez physically did anaconda choke him. So yeah, he's out hustling strikers. Michel Pereira, striker, and a welterweight. Roman Kopylov cannot wrestle. Edmund Shabazian really cannot wrestle and doesn't have a good gas tank. Marc-Andre Barrios, wrestling, he's never heard of it, right? They call it la lutte, where he's from in Quebec. Josh Frem, he was a baseball player and a football player, but I suppose he wrestled for a semester at Slippery Rock University in Arkansas. So is that the best wrestler he's taken? Fair. Well, Frem took him down 2 times and had like, I don't know, 2 minutes of top control. So almost wins the second round, bro. Watch that second round versus Fremback, and you see him struggling. And then it's been a long list of guys that cannot wrestle. And now he's getting Brandon Allen, which is no doubt a step up. Brandon Allen's headlined 3 times for the UFC. He's fought the better of level competition. He's a big guy. He's a better striker. He's a very good grappler in his own right. And your wrestling might be a little more null. And maybe you got durability issues standing as well. So shit, dude, the price is like, it's why minus 300 right now. It went from like minus 260 to 280, 300. I think Coolbet's offering a better price. Shout out to them. But man, this thing is trending in the direction of Fluffy Hernandez, who, let me get this out of the way, is my boy. But now, man, I watched the tape on it and I'm like, there's a lot of things that could go wrong at this number. So I hate to say it, I really do. I think I'm gonna take Brandon Allen.
Dog or pass type of situation
It's
for
a
Cody.
100%, and at 3-1, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna take the flip side to that.
I can't fault you too much on that line of thought, to be perfectly honest. I looked at Fluffy. I'm like, I've loved what Fluffy's been doing. We were all over him last time out against Pereira. But yeah, styles make fights. And
You almost got knocked out in that fight. He made us look good in the end, but he almost got knocked out within the first 3 minutes of that fight. It was a disaster. And then, yeah, Pereira's a welterweight that can't wrestle. That's favorable to him.
Mm-hmm. But it is, yeah, it's definitely tough to get to him here. I will say that, like, the one thing I will like bite back on, and it's probably because I was on Malkoun as an underdog against Brendan Allen. I thought Malkoun won the fight. Malkoun won the fight. You were just so like the takedowns, everything like that. You go through Allen's history, and it's like, yeah, well, the last really, really good wrestler he took on was Malkoun. And it ended up being like a low output type of fight, everything like that. But Brendan Allen was able to get a very, very close decision victory there. At minus 300, I just think you're basically buying all the risk on Fluffy at this point. You brought up the good points of like the chin being compromised in multiple fights. We're not going to absolutely, we're not going to bury him for that loss to Marcus Perez way back when. I mean,
No,
that was 6 years ago. This guy's a totally different fighter at this point. But yeah, the chin has been compromised over the course of his career. He's been rocked even in fights where, like, we're not seeing any sort of stats about like an actual knockdown.
No, but Shabazian
there's no
and
meat.
Pereira,
There's no meat on the
100%.
bone.
Yeah.
There's no meat on the bone. But am I going to pull the trigger on Brendan Allen? I guess at this stage in the week, for the purposes of this show, I'll side with you. I'm going to pick Brendan Allen, and that's like strictly a value type of play. I want to see, like, at this point in the week, it's just like I'm not beating any sort of number. The way that these markets move anyway.
Can I throw one more little sprinkle for you when you're
weigh-ins, everything like that. But Allen will be the pick. Whether I bet it or not remains to be seen. But I want to see these guys standing next to each other. Fluffy's a pretty small middleweight, if memory serves correct. And Brendan Allen is quite big, good grappling game. He's just very well-rounded, good training. But yes, you can throw something in.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is wait for weigh-ins, right, and see it. But Allen 3 inches taller, bigger guy all around. But I do want to say, okay, just think about this line for a second, is that Brendan Allen's last fight's against Nasruddin Imavov. Wow, that one aged pretty good considering he did go 3 rounds with Imavov. Imavov's currently a top 3 or 5 guy in the division. Yep. But beyond that is that he was super adamant. He's like, I do not want to go to France to fight this guy. And they were like, no option for you. You go to France. So he flew to France super late. And then if you remember, there was this thing about the French commission came in and drew blood during like weigh-ins for the American guys. He complains that the time zone difference, the having to go down there, fight Imavov in his own backyard, have blood drawn while you've cut 20 pounds during a weight cut and you're already exhausted. He blames all that stuff. But facts are, is he won the first round against Imavov. He takes him down easy money. He out-grapples him for the first round. Second and the third, he gasses out. That's kind of a problem to him, his durability, and that's why I think Fluffy is expected to break him down. But he's fighting stateside now. He fought 5 rounds with Chris Curtis stateside, fought 1 round and gassed in France. Maybe there's something to it. And if he do not gas for the first 2 rounds and can win the first 2 rounds, yeah, then again, you're going to be loving that plus money ticket. But Brendan Allen's been known to be a bit of a pie shitter in the past, so he's not the most trustworthy guy going.
No. And a lot of his wins have come by submission. So the grappling, finding that submission probably will not be there. And it's the type of fight too. If you're on your back, it's like you can't just sit there, be comfortable with Fluffy, because Fluffy will put a hurting on you. He will put volume and pace and wear you down to the point that it's just like there's no coming back from that. So interesting fight. I don't know how much financially I'm going to be invested in it, but Allen is the pick for both of us. We got John Matsumoto taking on Rob Font. Matsumoto, a minus 154 favorite. Font can be out for plus 120. Market just came in on this. Font was as high as like plus 175. One of my books had a bit of an off-market price, way off-market. So it's like, can't even really like publicly talk about it all that much. It was like plus 225. I took what they would allow and they moved the price pretty quickly. But there was like plus 175s out there just a couple days ago. And me watching the tape, I looked through it and it's just like, I like Font a lot here. I think it's wrong fighter favor, and the market, I suppose, is agreeing with me now. We know with Rob Font, the problem always is takedown defense. You go through the stats for him over the course of his career. It's just like anybody who wants to take him down pretty much is able to take him down. That is what it is, and that's part of the game. That's part of the frustration if you're going to back this guy, that you have to be fully aware that people take him down. Like Kyler Phillips last time out, 4 takedowns. He ended up, most of those takedowns were in round 1. And what I saw in the tape there, watching that fight back, is I saw a lot of improvements in like the get up game. I believe he's working with Faraz Sahabi, or at least he was for that camp.
Yeah, he is.
And there was big improvements in his get up game. Still gets taken down, and I think he's always going to get taken down. But his get-up game was a lot better. And in rounds 2 and 3, he was able to put it on him and gets a unanimous decision victory. You go through Matsumoto's career and watched all of his fights back. Casey Tanner took him down 2 times. Dan Argueta took down Matsumoto 9 times. Matsumoto was able to get up every single time, everything like that, and then got a guillotine choke at the end of round 2. And then the Katona fight most recently, taken down 3 times. He got 1 takedown, I guess, against Katona, but it's like everything I've watched on tape is like, this guy's not really a wrestler. That's not to say he can't get takedowns against Rob Font. It's to say that I think if Font does get taken down, I don't think John Matsumoto is just going to be able to hold him there. So that kind of clears one of the issues that you always have with Rob Font. But then the other thing is, so if this just turns into a striking exchange between the two of them, and this is a catch weight, because Matsumoto is coming in on short notice. Rob Font was supposed to be fighting Dominic Cruz on this card. Cruz got hurt, and Cruz ended up retiring because he's just like, no mas, body's broken, can't do it anymore. Respect to Dom for a great career. But yes, so Matsumoto's 5'6", 68-inch reach. Rob Font, 5'8", 71. It's like, we know what Font likes to do. Uses long-range weapons. Great boxing. Keeps you at the end of that jab. I don't know. When you put a dog price on a guy like this, on a fight he was already getting ready for, John Matsumoto has to push forward his weight cut an extra 2 weeks. I think he was getting ready for a fight 2 weeks from Saturday. So he was obviously already in camp, already in shape, and it is a catch weight of 140. So it's not like he has to do the full cut, but a little bit less preparation than what I'm sure he would have liked. All of these things to say, I think you could do a lot worse than Rob Font. The price is crashing right now. But you know how these things go. Sometimes over the course of the week, you may get it better than a plus 120. But I still think even at plus 120, Rob Font's the play. What about you?
Yeah, 100%. I got Ralph on as well. So underdog number three. And again, Matsumoto, it's a bit of a weird one. So he's at a gym called Inside Muay Thai in Brazil, and it's a small gym. Like the only other UFC fighter they've ever had train out of that gym is Ariana Carnelosi. Woof. But the point being is that it's just a small little gym, and they're posting stuff all over their socials, being like, "Yeah, we're going to America in a few days," as in they're not there already, coming from Brazil. And all of their posts are like, Chris Gutierrez is going to get it. And it's like, he's not even fighting Chris. And I mean, these posts are from like yesterday, Paul. They still, for whatever reason, thought they were fighting Chris. Now, it's probably lost in translation. Don't buy too much into it. But point being is that he moves up his camp 2 weeks sooner. Now he's got to fly out to Seattle, completely different location. Now he's getting, on paper, they look similar. Oh, Rob Font's a volume striker who's long, and but Chris Gutierrez is a volume striker. Like, nah, man, they're leaps and bounds different. Like Rob Font is an elite level striker. There's two ways to beat Rob Font. You can take him down, which a lot of guys have chosen to do, or you gotta have like a sickening amount of power. If you got a big power puncher, Rob Font tends to just outwork you, but then he lands three or four and you land one and it rocks the tables. Let's not forget that this is a man that outstruck Jose Aldo 149 to 86, but he got dropped twice. He outstruck Marlon Vera 271 to 159, but he got dropped three times. He also outworked Cody Garbrandt 176 to 63. So no doubt about it, the best strikers that the division have seen, the best guys, he's struck with all of them. And unless you're absolutely going to turn his lights out or drop him or really, really sting him with some violent stuff, he's just going to flat out outwork you on your feet. Now, John Matsumoto, 16-0, 25 years old, looks good. He hasn't knocked out an opponent in over 6 years. Three of his first four pro wins are by knockout. He's not knocked out anybody since then. They're all submission victories or decision victories. I don't think he's got that clear, concise power to hurt Rob Font, to drop Rob Font, and take away the fact that he's getting outworked standing. So now he needs to do the second plan. If you're not gonna knock him out standing or drop him standing to have that big power standing, you need to chain wrestle and take this guy down. And then it's just like you said, Paul. He's a 25-year-old kid, gets into martial arts at 6 years old. By 9 years old, he starts doing Muay Thai. By like 12 years old, he starts doing BJJ. At no point does he do any wrestling. And he's very physically strong. He's 25. He's wily. You'll see him not get a whole lot of takedowns. He only shows 27% takedown accuracy in the UFC. But like the Brad Katona fight, he went 1-for-7, right? 1-for-7. Against Dan Argueta, he got two takedowns of his own on 4 attempts, right? When he does get you, it's not sweet technique. He can maybe get a single leg and then just physically like arch you up. He can lift you off the ground. He can dump you that way. But this is like my tinfoil hat little thing that makes me think that we got this in the money. When he fights Tanner Casey, you mentioned this one on the Contender Series. Yeah, not only does he get taken down twice, but like Casey Tanner, the numbers are 100 to 99. Yeah, he blew the kid's leg off. Yeah, he landed the better shots. But like this very average 32-year-old guy that was just simply coming forward on him posed him a lot of problems, okay? Against Dan Argueta just absolutely gasses himself shooting these takedowns. He gets it. Against Brad Katona, again, by the numbers, it's very close. Point being is that the Dana White's Contender Series episode is in the UFC Apex. UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Curtis 2 is in the Apex. UFC Hernandez versus Pereira is in the Apex. This is his first time fighting outside of the Apex, and it's an arena. It's a fight night show, but it's in an arena. There's a live crowd. Imagine you're 25, you come over from Brazil, it's your first time fighting outside of the Apex. He's not going to lay and pray Rob Font. He's not going to take the easy way out and say, shoot 20 takedowns, get 8 of them and control him. The noise is going to get to him. He's going to just be like, you know what? His bravado, I think, will get to him. And I think he's going to fall into the trap of just standing with Rob Font too long. So I agree with a lot of your other points. Rob Font's get-up game's looking good. He's working with Faraz Zahabi. He's working with Ryan Hall over in Montreal. Calvin Kattar didn't get the win, but I thought gave a good account of himself. Rob Font's got another good underdog. Oh, yeah, and he just cashed as a plus 350 underdog against Kyler Phillips, and now he's got a chance to cash as another big underdog in a fight that I do think favors him. So we learned all about last week about vet lessons. Sometimes the savvy vet just knows a little more than you. Jean Matsumoto, 16-0, 25 years old. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, but he's about to find out. So hopefully Rob Font can go and cash that. I completely agree with the way the line's moving. I've liked it since the fight got announced.
We're 3 for 3 underdogs.
There's more coming, dog. There's more coming.
People in the YouTube comments probably not very happy. And you know what? then bet the favorite. That's really what it all comes down to. Go with your gut. You know, you don't have to blindly tail. You shouldn't blindly tail anybody in this world, in my humble opinion. Take the information, do with what you will, bet what you can, or what's available to you. That's gambling. That's all it is, really.
This week, though, you could just, I think, what do I know? But I think you could just blindly bet every single underdog. But don't parlay them. But if you just blindly bet every single underdog, they're not all going to win. But I think because of the plus money being hung out there, that you're still going to be okay at the end of it. So the three we just broke down, Brandon Allen, Rob Font, Henry Cejudo. Oh, what are the chances? If two of them win, you're in the money. If one of them win, you're really not even really that far off of the money. So again, Paul, we'll have to wait and see what happens on Saturday. But I did the tape, and this is the conclusions that I came to: is that these are live underdogs.
All of this talk, you're gonna have our boy Fatty Malin in the Discord making round robins. Cody,
Let's go.
you gotta be careful when you say these things. You may get a little bit out of hand. But all right, moving on down, we've got Jean Silva taking on Melsik Baghdasaryan. Jean, a minus 588 favorite at Coolbet. Melsik can be had for plus 435. We got here.
Okay, so actually watching the tape, I think I got Melsik Baghdasaryan.
That's
But
wild.
but I know, but I'm not gonna pick him. I'm not gonna pick him because of a theory that I'm more in tune to the actual fight. But honestly, here's the thing: Melsik Baghdasaryan's another one of these guys that just really can't grapple. Armenian guy, really tough. Glendale Fight Club. You can say whatever you want about them, but they've produced a lot of good kickboxers, a lot of good Muay Thai guys, a lot of good pro boxers. And Melsik's another one of these guys that he's 3-0 as a pro boxer on Golden Boy shows in California. Then he switches his focus to MMA briefly. Then he switches his focus to Muay Thai and kickboxing. He's a former K1 welterweight challenger. Sorry, I didn't win. Over in Japan. He's a very credible striker. I don't think this guy can wrestle or grapple to save his life, but he's a very good striker, right? Southpaw, big for the weight class. Got some nastiness to him. You see him on the Contender Series, it's like, oh, damn, highlight reel knockout over Dennis Bazooka. Sorry, that one wasn't the knockout. He beats Bazooka, doubles him up. No big deal. Colin Anglin, the spinning wheel kick. It's like, oh, he loves to spin. He's got some flashy techniques. Again, southpaw guy, ton of power, big for the weight class, stuff that you like. Bazooka does take him down twice. Colin Anglin does take him down. But if you do not take him down, then you're going to have a lot of problems in front of you. Bruno Souza, actually, so Melsik's got a lot of first round finishes. Almost everything's a first round finish. So Bruno actually gasses him out. In the third round, Melsik don't look good in that fight. Then he gets this Josh Kulabau fight. In that fight, he wins the first round. He busts Kulabau up. There's blood everywhere. He wins the first round. The second round, he's winning. And then he throws like one shitty kick that turns into a scramble. And Kulabau just grabs his neck with no hooks in and chokes him out with a rear naked choke, all in the span of like less than 10 seconds. I don't think he can grapple. The fact that Jean Silva's out of Fighting Nerds and they're such a smart team and they do, all of the guys there know how to grapple, I would assume that they're telling him take him down. But if you've seen Jean Silva fight, he's not interested in taking you down,
No,
man.
it's not. He's not about that life.
So he might very well just play Baghdasaryan's game, which is like, oh, you want to strike, then let's do it. And then that's actually just giving Baghdasaryan the only thing he does well, and he does it exceptionally well. Why not? Why are you going to do that? Why would you play that game? So I've never really seen Baghdasaryan lose striking exchanges in the first two rounds of a fight while he's fresh. He's a very good striker. And when you watch Jean Silva, actually a lot of the time he's actually getting outworked. Like he got outworked by, I wouldn't say Charles Jourdain's outworking him. That's a bit of a stretch. But Charles Jourdain's landing some good shots. It's just, he walks forward and clunks you. Against Drew Dober, Drew Dober is outworking him. At the time of the stoppage, it's 59-53. But if you've seen the fight, Dober's face is up.
Yeah.
The power is there. But there's no getting away from the fact that he fights with his hands super low, stands in a distance, and then just plods forward. And he wants to give you a high five, and he wants to give you a hug, and he's having a good time. And there's a live crowd, and he's feeding on the live crowd, and he wants to just throw out these bazookas. But he's taking a guy on that has pro boxing experience, pro kickboxing experience, is a credible striker, has never been knocked out. Never in his career. So is that the path of victory? Banging it out? Is that the best avenue to take as a minus 600 favorite? Like, probably not. So then it's like, well, why don't you be a man? Why don't you just take Baghdasaryan? Well, I got a lot of other underdogs, and there's more coming. But the reason why I was like, forget it, I'm out on it, is that yeah, he's been striking for a long ass time. Now he's 33, and I feel like his body's just chewed up. Pulled out of a fight with TJ Laramie in April 2022, just as he withdrew. Fair enough. Then he pulls out of a fight with Joannis and Brito because he breaks his hand. Shit, that happens sometimes. Cub Swanson's got hand issues, and it's never held him back. Then he pulls out of a fight with Hader Imeel, doesn't have a reason. Then he pulled out of his last fight with Muhammad Naimov with a torn labrum, which is your shoulder. So he's got hand injuries, he's got shoulder injuries. He's 33. He's had one fight in the last 2 years against Tucker Lutz. He's getting hit. But against Tucker Lutz, who cares if you get hit? Against John Silva, you getting hit, you dead. So there's just he's banged up, he's inactive. He has no ground game, and he's about to get teed off on by just like a younger guy. But I honestly think that at least for the first two rounds, this fight's probably pretty competitive. The line on Jean Silva, I do not agree with, but I will take him as the favorite. So that is favorite number one for me, Jean Silva.
Yeah, I don't love. I mean, you know me. It's like a minus 600 favorite. It's like it's got to be. I got to feel so good about you to be adding you to parlays and stuff. But I went back, watched the tape, and it's hard not to love Jean Silva as a fighter, but as a minus 600 favorite that you're going to be putting money behind, maybe a little bit less so. The guy's an absolute dog, loves to fight. Apparently, he's got some sort of like alter ego called like Lord or something like that. And his like girlfriend has to like keep him in check. Like he's got like a multiple personality type of thing going
So it's
on.
crazy, even better. I'm in.
Exactly. So it's like I don't really want to step in front of anything like that. And I guess that does bring in part of the problem with like I haven't bet it yet, but like how I'm actually thinking about playing this one is yeah, it's like round one starts playing out a little bit too close, and he's got Kyle Baralho, one of the smarter guys in, one of the smartest fighters in MMA in his corner. They all tend to fight pretty smart, and they're very well rounded, but like mostly, except for like Baralho, whose striking is really coming along. But like a lot of the other ones are like are good strikers. But you go through like early fights for John Silva, it's like he's got some submission wins on his record. They're against like low level opponents on the Brazilian scene and stuff, but he at least knows how to do it. You'd think that like last time out against Drew Dober would have been a time to like bust some of
Yeah,
that
he's
out,
not interested.
but he was winning all of those exchanges. Whose face was absolutely gushing with blood, whose eyebrow was about as badly cut as it can possibly get in MMA. It's just like John loves it. So it's like I would not expect to see him go for a takedown in the first round at all. These guys are banging it out for 5 minutes, would be my expectation looking at how this guy is. And then whether he listens to his corner or not after round two or after round one, I don't hate like John Silva by submission plus 550 is out there. Just kind of flip the script a little bit. And it would be a
Yeah,
small play at plus 550. Just kind of like, well, what you've been doing isn't necessarily working in this fight because this other guy can strike as well. And the path of least resistance. Whether he takes it, that's his, that's in his mindset. That's in the Lord's hands. I think that's the name of his alter ego. Um, that's in the Lord's
Lord.
hands, out of my hands. But Jean Silva will be the pick, and I'm interested in dropping a little sprink on the Silva by sub.
Silva by sub. I would say if you don't want to bite the bullet on the minus 600, I really like the over 1.5 at minus 175. I say that
Yeah,
being that Baghdasaryan never been knocked out, and Jean
yeah.
Silva at least early with a live crowd. Yeah, he's gonna engage this guy. Drew Dober hit that over 1.5. In fact, he never got knocked out. It was a cut stoppage. Charles Jourdain did get knocked out. Charles Jourdain now fights at 135, and people forget that Jean Silva missed weight for that fight, came in at 147.5. You're not going to miss the line. Well, if you're Jean Silva fight, you've missed the line. You're not going to miss this line if you're a Baghdasaryan guy. So wait till weigh-ins. He's missed weight once already. He has another bad weight cut. He comes down from Brazil. He looks to bang it out early to the crowd's delight in the first, and things start to fall apart. Like,
Is that 145 again? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't, again, it's like part of me. Yeah, he moved up to 155 for Dober. Now he's coming back down. So is it a tough weight cut? Is he a big guy? Is he going to be drained? Is he only a one round guy?
Definitely
Kevin
thick.
Kevin Kevin Villagos went the distance with him on the Contender Series. His knockout wins over Weston Wilson. Well, he's awful. I think Melsik, even if he does lose, even if he takes to beating later, even if he gasses and this thing becomes a slop fest, I think we're hitting that over 1.5, to be honest. So minus 175 is a lot better than 6 to 1. That's how I would feel probably better about it. And in the event that he gasses out and loses, probably happens late, and I don't have to worry about losing a minus 600 ticket, and I can still hit my over 1.5. So I love 1.5, but this one it's violent striker versus violent striker, but there's a respect factor there. There's a durability on both sides. I think it hits 1.5.
Yeah, Jean has never been finished. And Melsik, I'm
He got
assuming,
choked out, but
has
it's
been
like,
choked out. Yeah,
yeah, with
like
no
that's
hook.
that's how he loses fights. So
It happened one time.
yeah, over 1.5, don't mind it at all. And frankly, I expect these guys to throw hands at least for the first 5 minutes. And
I
then
agree.
whatever adjustments get made or don't get made, or you know, or get listened to slash not listened to, that's in the Lord's hands, as I said. We got Alonzo Menifield taking on Julius Walker. Alonzo, a minus 208 favorite. Julius can be had for plus 178 at Coolbet. Cody, who you got?
You do not have to tempt me to fade Alonzo Menifield, so I am ending up with another underdog here. Listen, it's nothing against
Hey,
him. It's just
you're
this is
five for
a
five on underdogs. This is
no. I got
crazy.
Jean Silva. What
Oh
are you
yeah,
talking
you.
about?
Sorry, but you were close to pulling the trigger on Melsik.
Wait until we get to that Abdul-Malik guy. I got him. That's a couple of favorites.
Okay.
Well, he's 10 to 1, so I'm assuming most guys got him. Point being here with Alonzo, he's not that good, man. First of all, he's like 37 years old. He's nearing the tail end of his career. He's lost his last two fights, both by knockout. One of them first round, 12 seconds into it. The world where he's a 2 to 1 betting favorite, it's gone, man. He's a aged athlete near the end of his contract, near the end of his competitive run, on a two-fight losing streak, both of which he got knocked out in, including one in 12 seconds. Not the kind of guy you bet minus 200 in, especially at 205 where there's a lot of volatility. Yeah, I don't like it. Thing with him is that, troubled upbringing. He gets into football. He ends up playing with like Southern Methodist, I think. Goes to the CFL, plays a little arena football. He never makes a pro debut. He turned amateur in 2015 and he made his pro debut the same year. And he's like 28 years old at the time. So he's really much learning on the fly, but there's nothing about his game that I find overly good. He's not a good wrestler. He's not a good striker. His cardio is super lackluster. His durability is not all that good. He's decent, very physically strong, so he can hold you up against the cage, and people will say, "Guy's got a lot of power." He does have a lot of power, but it's not really like knockout power. Like he hasn't knocked anybody out since 2022, where he knocked out Misha Cherkinov. He's got a very long history of not having a good chin. He knocked out Askar Mazarov. Well, do we really count that one as a knockout win? He knocked out, woof, Paul Craig? Paul Craig really can't take a punch. Oh shit, he knocked out Vinicius Moreira. Again, it's like if you have zero durability, he can knock those guys out, but he's short on real knockout wins, especially as of late. When he fought in the Contender Series the first time, he fought Daniel Jolly. He knocked him out. Well, he didn't knock him out. They called it off after the first round. Dana did not give him a contract. It was like, you look real green. Come back. He fought a second time against Deshaun Boatwright, won in 8 seconds, and then Dana was like, okay, you're in. Since then, I see like a lot of struggling. He's not that durable. His cardio's not that good. He's not an exceptionally good striker. He's just a strong guy. He's a strong guy from a football background, so he's decently athletic. 205 is such a barren wasteland for talent that guys like that can come in and win some fights. What are the fights he's winning? Fabio Charant, a super aged Ed Herman, Askar Mazarov, the guy that lied about his record, Misha Cherkinov cut almost right after that. Jimmy Crute, well, the first time he fought Jimmy Crute, he gave up 6 takedowns. And when he gets taken down, Paul, he lays flat on his back. There's no real good get up game out of him. I think he can be exploited on the ground with a spotty ground game, spotty takedown defense, no actual get up game. I think he can be exposed standing in that he doesn't throw anything straight. Everything's loopy, loopy hook, loopy. You just throw straight down the middle on this guy, you're going to beat him to the punch. Him being a little bit older, him being knocked down his last two fights, none of that bodes well in the slightest bit. So who's Julius Walker? Well, Julius Walker, yeah, okay, he's green, he's young, he's green, he's got some ways to go. 25 undefeated record as a pro, 6-0. Like there's still a lot of maturing to go for him. But again, this guy is an athletic fighter. He played basketball D2 level, freak athlete, big guy, 6'5", long reach, gets out of school, and here's the difference. Gets out of school, shit, I'm playing D2. All these guys can ball. I'm gonna switch over to MMA. He has his first amateur fight. Let me bring it up. He's his first amateur fight. He's 20 years old. 20 years old. He's had 5 years to develop from amateur to pro. He's had 10 amateur fights. Alonzo
Mm.
Menifield had 2 amateur fights. This guy did it the right way, right? Menifield turned pro at 28. This kid's pro by 23, but he had 10 amateur fights. Developed it right. As an amateur, there's a few losses, never been finished, never been knocked out, never been submitted. So if you're going to beat this guy, you're really going to have to put a beating on him. But this is what I appreciate the most out of anything. Turns pro, and it's like, let's not just waste our time and fight nobodies. Let's fight the best available guys around. And to his credit, that's really what he's done. Now Bartling, right? Now
Decent
Bartling,
fighter, yeah.
he was on the Ultimate Fighter and he fought at
Yep.
heavyweight. The season that Usman's brother won, it wasn't a good season, but he's an
Hauga.
Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, Pauga finished second, getting knocked out. Or it was a shitty decision. Terrible fight. But yeah, he lost to Usman's brother, Muhammad Usman, in the final. Anyways, heavyweight Ultimate Fighter. Bevon Lewis physically did fight in the UFC. And Myron Dennis a little bit old now, but a glory kickboxing veteran that's like a pretty credible striker. So you can say, oh, well, he got rocked by Myron Dennis. Myron Dennis is a good striker. And yeah, he got rocked and then he took him down. And when he takes you down, he smashes on you. The fight with Bevon Lewis, same thing. It's like once he gets him down, he really puts a beating on him. The fight with Niall Bartling, I think to me, most impressive is that he gets him down, he's putting a beating on him, outlasts him, handles everything he's got to offer in the first round. Second round, this kid's cardio is solid. He's 25, solid athlete. You know, Menifield is 37. Menifield's at the end of the rope. If one of them is going to start to fatigue, I don't think it's going to be Julius Walker, who, for the record, is short notice, but he actually had a fight booked, like coming up against this Mark Courier. Mark Courier's 3-5, but keep in mind the fight was at heavyweight. Mark Courier's 265 pounds, and that's the other thing that's worth noting. When he fought Mike Cook, he weighed in at 254.9. When he fought Brian Porritt, he weighed 255.9. Now he fights at 205. So
Hmm.
Julius has essentially dropped 50 pounds. He has a win over multiple heavyweights, including Porritt, Mike Cook. Those guys are bums. Neil Bartling, not a bum, and he beat him. It's when he takes him down, the transition from being on top to the triangle choke. That's slick, man. This guy's got solid grappling, which is a rarity at 205. His ground game, I mean, he's most of the time when he gets on top of his opponent, starts ground and pounding him. That's when they're done. Standing, because he's 6'5", he's bigger, taller, longer than Menifield, and he throws straight. He has a jab that's straight. Everything Menifield throws is loopy, it's wide, everything's off. So as he steps in to break the pocket, he's going to be getting met with straight punches. Eventually, he might say, you know what, I want to take him down, initiate in the clinch. But is Menifield really going to just clinch stall him for 15 minutes in a live venue? I don't know that he does that. I think more often than not, he gets chasing. He gets chasing where he's moving forward. And this is not the Apex. It's not a small cage. It's a big cage in an arena. And I do feel it's a venue. Arena's probably a bit of a stretch. It's probably, it's not gigantic or anything. But big cage, space for Julian to move around, or Julius to walk to move around the perimeter, get to stiffen him with those shots. I think his cardio checks up. He had a fight coming up. The weight cut I'm a little bit worried about because it's like, what are you going to cut, 40, 50 pounds? But I think that's a testament to how big this guy is. Menifield's going to have trouble just holding him against the cage or taking him down. People will say, well, Menifield could just knock him out. Yeah, maybe. But again, he's short on knockouts the last 3 years. And the guys he normally does knock out have durability issues. So it's just a total dog war pass. And in this case, there's some solid plus money being offered up on the dog. I am in. So Julius Walker to spring the upset and get his first UFC victory.
Damn it, I'm sold. I've been kind of like circling the wagon on this one, trying to figure out how to approach it. I mean, I went and watched some of Julius's tape, and it wasn't pretty. Like there
A
was
work in progress.
it was sloppy in some situations, especially like the Bartling fight, like round one. It's not necessarily pretty, but like Niall's a big guy, is solid wrestler in his own right. So that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, you go through Menifield's recent history. He gets knockdowns, but he's not able to put these guys away in a lot of the situations. He got a knockdown against Dustin Jacoby, but loses that fight or gets that fight by unanimous
Robbery.
decision.
That was a
But yeah,
robbery.
not a good, not a decision that he probably should have won. The Crute one gets 2 knockdowns and somehow it goes to a majority draw. Why? Because he just doesn't have the cardio, and it doesn't seem like he has like when he does hurt guys. It's like he's almost so scared of like gassing himself out, probably for good reason, that like he doesn't necessarily pursue it all the way. The wins have been against Crute was kind of at the end of the line at that point, as you said.
Retired right after.
Jacoby was a robbery. Um, Shirkinov, very one dimensional. Askarov, absolute fraud. Where like his Tapology page had those little like warning signs all over it saying like none of these fights are real. Ed Herman, like come on, you go back like Thick Willie Knight was able to take him down and won on volume against him. Yeah, Julius Walker, 25, inexperienced. Is it possible that like Menifield is just a better wrestler, is able to take him down, hold him down for 2 of the 3 rounds? Yes, but in that type of fight, I expect Alonzo to be super, super tired in round 3, unless it's like Walker's got nothing from his back. Then Menifield maybe would be able to do it, but that's a lot of asking ifs and whats for somebody who's minus 208 favorite. So clear dogger pass for me as well. Your boy Trent Millsap in the Discord will be happy that Cody is backing his former basketball, I believe, teammate.
Wasn't his basketball teammate? They went to high school together. So
Okay.
I'm assuming Walker was the star of the basketball team, and then eventually, yeah, goes on to play D2. But yeah, he had known him in high school. They maintained a relationship. He let us know as well that Julius Walker goes down to Vegas and gets some rounds down there. He had been training a little bit with Ibo Aslan, who we're about to talk about. Yeah, again, I just think he's doing the right things. And then the last thing for Menifield, and yeah, he's not getting any older, or he's not getting any younger, I suppose. He's very much getting older. But his last fight against Murzakanov, he got outstruck 45-15, tripled up. His fight with Alberg, it's 7-1. His fight with Jacoby, which is a robbery win, he got outstruck 93-68. And then even the fight he won over Jimmy Crute, he was getting outstruck at the time of the submission, 26-21. He's there to get outworked. So even though Walker it leaves something to be desired, I just think that the youth and athleticism, every week I'm reminded it's like 64% of the time, younger guy wins. It's like, shut up already. It all depends on the matchup. This is one where it's like, yeah, I think youth and athleticism wins more than anything else. So, are you on the same page? I know me and Trent
I'm on the
Millsap are
same.
on the same page. You're on the same page. Let's do it, Paul.
I'm in. What's the worst that could happen? Um, they got Ibo Aslan taking on Ion Cutelaba. Ibo, a minus 167 favorite. Uh, uh, Ion Cutelaba can be had for plus 141. Ion tried to come out last time out there, and the biggest problem with him, bro, is like he tried against Ivan Ersland. Went back, watched that fight. It's just like he tried to hold his cardio, make sure that he didn't gas out, everything like that. And what happened? He has a couple good rounds. He gets the split decision victory. Don't get me wrong, whatever. A win's a win in this game. It is what it is. But round 3, it's like he spends most of round 3 lying on his back. Ivan Ersland, who's like not really like some sort of like elite grappler by any stretch of the imagination, has all of the control time in that round. Had 3 minutes and 53 seconds of control time in that round. Even when Ion Cutelaba is trying to keep his cardio and try to have 3-round cardio, it just doesn't work. Like he was fighting a proper pace, doing a fight that worked for his cardio, but his cardio has just never been there over the course of 3 rounds. This fight was a lot lined a lot closer. Money started piling in on Ibo, and I mean Ibo's run here hasn't been the most impressive, I guess. Like I think there's definitely holes in his game, but the Anton Turkalj fight, he looks super super tired. He looks super super gassed. He's still got enough in the tank to get the knockdown, get the finish there. I will say he's been probably a little bit fortunate that the referees in his fights has stepped in to stop these fights, but um, that's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, against Turkali, he's beaten up, banged up a little bit, but he's still able to get the job done in round three. Like if Ion doesn't come out, get takedowns, and get like an early TKO, early finish, like I don't want to be involved in Cutelaba when a fight gets after the second half or into the second half of the fight. I looked at Ibo's props for like him to win in round three, and they were just way shorter than I would be willing to pay. But that's kind of how I think this fight will probably play out. But I think it was like 8-1, just like way too short for my blood. Pick is Ibo, but like I'm just kind of avoiding this fight like the plague. What about you?
I can see avoiding it like the plague. In fact, eventually they're gonna just have like two robots fight each other. It'll be like cyborg fighting championships, and then you'll expect to hear names like Ibo versus
Ion.
Eon. Yeah, Ion versus Ibo, Ibo versus Eon. Yeah. All jokes aside, yeah. Honestly, what you see, I get where you're coming from, but it's different than what I see, right? What I see with Ion Kutalaba's last fight is that he fought mature and patient for the first time ever. I know what you're saying. It's like, wow, he's still gassed out. For the first time ever, he decided to pace himself and fight like a veteran fighter, and it still didn't really work out. But like that Ivan Urslan guy's big. And I mean, Ion Kutalaba, there's no official knockdown, but I don't know how there's no knockdown. He drops Urslan. He takes him down 3 times. He's expending a lot of energy. This fight could have got stopped twice, didn't get stopped. In the third round, he's completely cooked and he lies on his back. Now, it's not a great look. Felipe Lins took him down twice. Johnny Walker subbed the guy. Even though he's a European combat sambo champion out of Moldova, his ground game leaves something to be desired. But against Ibo Aslan, there's zero concern there. Quite literally cannot grapple. Now, here's Ibo's other thing. He's 14-1, right? 12 of those 14 wins are by first round knockout. That's his win condition. He beats guys in the first round. His only career loss is to Anton Turkalj. We'll talk about the rematch, but he loses to Anton Turkalj in that he completely gasses out, gets taken down, gets submitted. Okay, if he can't knock you out in the first, he's got a suspect gas tank. He's a suspect ground game. Okay, fair. Then he beats 4 straight guys. I think 3 straight guys with a losing record. 6-7, 18-21, 5-9. Boom, you're on the contender series. First round knockout, rematch versus Anton Turkalj. You mentioned that he was absolutely gassed. Facts. My man Paul Shaughnessy spitting facts. What my man Paul Shaughnessy forgot to mention is that like you got Anton Turkalj lit him up with like a bunch of good strikes, landed 55 shots, and a lot of them are clean in the jaw. Ibo Aslan's left eye is damn near swollen shut. Anton Turkalj is holding his own against him. And then he cooks him in the third round. They're both tired. They're both sloppy. Anton Turkalj is a absolutely terrible striker. The fact that he was competitive at working him, causing visible damage like that, is all problematic. And then what's Ibo do his next fight? He takes on a guy that's really not that good. He backs him up to the cage. He unloads with him with a bunch of missiles. And the Brazilian opponent, 34-year-old debuting Brazilian opponent, crumples to the canvas. We'll talk about him later because he's also on the card. Thing is that yeah, he's got a clear win condition where he can swang and bang early, but he's got suspect takedown defense. He's got suspect cardio. When you talk about Ion Cutelaba, what are the worries about him? Well, that he normally doesn't have good cardio. He paced himself last time, and he doesn't have good cardio. Yeah, okay, great. He's fighting a guy who also doesn't have good cardio, so that he won't be able to weaponize that against Cutelaba. Well, what about, Kutalaba's suspect ground game? Felipe Lins, a former heavyweight for the record, was able to grind on him. Other guys have been able to grind on him. Johnny Walker was able to submit him. Well, Ibo doesn't have a ground game. He can't move on to. In fact, Cutelaba now has the advantage. He took down Ivan Urslan 3 times. He took down Tanner Boser. He took down Kendi Njoku. He took down Johnny Walker. He took down Ryan Spann 3 times. More importantly, he took down Devin Clark 8 times, who wrestled in college, and he took down Justin Jacoby 9 times in a fight that ended up being ruled a split decision because he gassed out. His wrestling is infinitely better than Ibo's. His striking, although doesn't have as much maybe power as Ibo, he certainly swings and makes up with that difference by throwing everything he's got. And also, like, I just feel like he's maybe slightly a little more active. If you can use that activity mixed in with takedown attempts, I actually think he squeaks this thing out. I really do. Ibo's gonna be one of those guys. Like, who was that big Cuban dude who was a Taekwondo gold medalist? He was beating everybody. You know his name, Paul.
He's a heavyweight. Yeah,
Giant, like
Robelis to
6'.
Spain.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, damn, dude, this guy got a lot of power. He can strike. It's like, well, is he any good on the ground? You don't know until you see him on the
Well,
ground.
like Turkali can wrestle a little bit.
Yes,
How did it
yes.
go in the grab?
The first
Turkali went
time he
0 for 8 on
dominated him.
takedowns in that fight.
Yeah, but if you watch
Turkali
that
also
fight,
went
it's
out
just
and
a
took
slot
down
fest.
Vitor Petrino or 5 times when they fought against each other. So
Yeah, that's fair. I would say that Ion Cutelaba's last fight, that Ivan Erslan, that guy had credible wins in Europe already. He's a big boy. He's a banger. That's a tough fight. That to me is a tougher fight than Ibo Aslan, who's 27. He's 14-1 by doing the exact same thing. You're right. Oh, Turkali went 0 for 8 on takedowns. He beat him. Fair. He also lost to Turkali when he did get taken down and got submitted. If he doesn't get taken down, yeah, he can bang. But how tired was he from stuffing those takedowns? Eon's
not
always
tired
been a
enough because he got a
madman.
third round finish.
Yeah, Eon's always been a madman. It's the reason why he's got a 6-9-1 record in the UFC. And then his last time out, split decision. But I bet Ivan Erslan, even though I like Eon, I bet Ivan Erslan, my Croatian countryman, but he lost. It was a split. Sure, I would have taken it for monetary purposes, but Ion Cutelaba won the fight fair and square. And I remember watching it and thinking to myself, like live, of course I've rewatched it, but when watching it live, it was like, how could you have predicted that Ion Cutelaba was going to fight like a normal person? And I think it'll serve him well. So I see all the red flags you're seeing. Just pass altogether. But I'm hitting a dogger pass. And then I like the over 1.5. I do. Because it's minus 110. It's essentially even money. And you've got Eon, who's fighting way smarter lately, versus Ibo that I don't know. Does he knock out Ion Cutelaba in one round? Who's the only guy to do that? Magomed Ankalaev? Like, probably doesn't knock him out. I don't know. It's a fight, and they're big guys. Paul, anything can happen, but I'm taking Ion Cutelaba. I think he's got a much better ground game. I think he's going to take him down. I think he's got a bad gas tank, but it's actually better than Ibo's. And he's 7-9-1 because he won that last fight with Ivan. He's got 17 fights in the UFC versus a guy what's his best career win? Anton Turkalj, who's actually 1-1 against. No, I'm in. Give me the plus money underdog. So I'm not just chasing them. I think these guys are going to win, but I understand they won't all win. But I think at the end of the night, more of them do than not. So Ion Cutelaba, another dog play.
All right, we got Andre Fili taking on Melk Costa. Fili, I mean, slight underdog status at cool bet. They're both minuses though. Minus 102 for Fili, minus 115 for Melk. Who you got here?
I got Fili, but like it's not by no way it's a 50-50 fight. They got to line it like that. It's yeah, by no means a layup. And you can make good arguments for all these underdogs. This one there really is no underdog. My question for Fili is nearly 35 now. Is like how much does he care? Not that he can't fight, he's a good fighter, but he has 23 fights in the UFC. And it just seems like when he's in there, like sometimes there's just like a lack of motivation. Still capable of winning fights. He's coming off a win over Cub Swanson, which it was a close fight, but a decent enough victory. I feel like he goes out there and wins this fight, but it does seem like he's got other interests in life and maybe doesn't want to fight another 5 or 10 fights at this level. And at what point is he going to go out there and just go through the motions? I don't know. And if I'm betting on him, then I want a guy that really wants it. Most of these guys, they're going for it. Fili, I like the guy. I really do. We hung out with him a bit when we were in Las Vegas. Like, what a chill guy, laid back guy. But he's got a lot of fight experience. He's getting a little bit older. Milk Costa is going to try to just outwork him. And as long as he's willing to go out there with a lunchbox and give the best 15 minutes he's got, he's going to win. If he's unwilling to give that little bit, and then he probably just gets outworked. But why we end up with Andre Fili, yeah, like experience aside, is that he's a better wrestler. And I think that's going to be the real key here. Against Cub Swanson, he did only get 2 takedowns, not much in terms of top control. I guess 3 minutes and 50 seconds. It said he shot 11 takedowns. That's key, baby. I don't care if you get them all. Shoot them. Keep this guy guessing, put him on his back foot, take him down. If you can do that, then he's going to be able to establish top control on Milk Costa and have a lot of success. Other fights, again, it's like you do see him take down the odd guy. It's not like he's really committed to wrestling the entirety of the fight, but in the striking against Milk Costa, Milk, the numbers suggest there's nobody has higher volume, but when you watch the fights, it's like Milk's throwing a lot more kicks. He does seem to be a little more active. Even when he's missing, he's just throwing something out there. Whereas Fili's got a little more slickness to him. He's sitting down on like one or two punches at a time. But I feel like Fili's striking is pretty comparable to Milk Costa's in that there's no giant edge. He may be losing striking exchanges. He may be in a close first 3 minutes of the round, but him taking Milk down is what's going to secure these rounds. Go out and do that as a vet performance. You can strike with him. No problem. You can strike with him. Maybe you catch him. Maybe you knock him out. But the last 90 seconds of the round of these close rounds, take him down. Take him down. We got it. You could talk all day about all the great guys that Andre Fili's fought. So you know that he's got the back class. You know that he's got the higher level of experience. But Milk is super interesting, right? To most people, it's not. But to me, it is. Debuts against Thiago Moises at 155. And Moises takes him down 4 times. No problem. I mean, Thiago Moises is really not that good of a wrestler. I don't know the last time he put up that many takedowns on a guy, but he takes him down like nothing. Then he drops down to 145 and he beats Austin Lingo, who got released from the UFC a short time later. Then he moves back up to 155, where Steve Garcia, this is important. He tried to take down Steve Garcia. He went 2 for 10 on takedowns in the very first round, completely gasses himself out in the very first round, and then old boy Steve puts it on him in the second and knocks him out. Why he went from 45 against Lingo back up to 55 against Steve, was he lost it against Thiago? I don't know, because he doesn't look that big. But he's 0-2 at 55 and 2-0 on 145. This fight is at 145 for the record, but so with a little bit of jumping around. He's got cardio issues. He doesn't have a whole lot of power. Volume's there, but there's not a lot of whole power. Beating Fili and striking, you got to knock him out. A lot of guys, you can blitz him and you can hit him and you can hurt him, then great. But in this case, it's like he's just going to be rinky-dinking left kicks from the southpaw stance. Fili's going to make him move. Fili's going to use his footwork. He's going to draw him in. He's going to mix in the takedowns. The Shailin Nurmbayaki fight, Shailin Nurmbayaki took him down 4 times, right? 4 times on 10 attempts for 6.5 minutes of control time. First round, Nurmbayaki wins. Nobody's disputing it. The second round, Nurmbayaki's winning like the first 3 minutes, but then Milk gets up, lands better strikes, wins the second, wins the third, wins the fight. But for the first 6.5 minutes, he's getting easily taken down and controlled by Shailin Nurmbayaki, who has no striking to fall back on. Fili's probably a better wrestler than Shailin Nurmbayaki. Plus, he does have striking to fall back on. Veteran class, better skill set. I think he puts it on him. He drains this guy out. He wears on him. The cut to 45 tires Milk out. Fighting in a hot crowd fights Milk out. The veteran presence of Fili mixing in takedowns, making this guy work, tires him out. And offensively, he's been trying to wrestle a lot lately himself. Him wrestling Fili, he's not taking Fili down. So that takes one of his own weapons off of the table. He's reduced to just flim flam striking from the outside. Could be a close fight, could be a split decision. But I think Fili ends up getting awarded it. So I'll take Touchy Fili to get the victory.
Yeah, I mean, we met him in Vegas when we were down there for UFC 300, and I'm a fan. He's a cool
He's a
guy.
cool guy. Yeah.
He's outside having a cigarette outside of what was the PFL card, right?
You got
Yeah,
Cage Van Zant.
Easy guy to talk to. I referred to him as Andre Touchy Fili. And then like Bronstetter laughed at me for like me. I was just like, I just call him that on the show. Like he's got the best nickname in the game.
Touchy Fili.
Yeah, no, he's just like you see interviews with him, but it's like from what I gather, it's just like the interviews you see with him is just like he's just a stand-up guy. So I think, a little bit biased because I've met the guy before. But he's fought everybody. He's fought 23 UFC fights at this point in his career. He's been in there with all sorts of styles, everything like that. And yeah, you have a pick'em fight against somebody who, taken down 4 times by Shailin, who is a good wrestler. Don't get me wrong, very, very physical guy. A guy who Steve knocked his damn head off in round 2. A guy who, he got the win over Austin Lingo, but Austin Lingo's over on the regional scene.
How would Austin Lingo do against Andre Fili, right?
Exactly.
Like that would never get booked in a million years. It makes no sense.
So, I don't really understand I don't really understand like too much of it's been a slight market move. Like this is a 50-50 fight is what the line is saying, but there has been some money coming in on Melk, and I disagree with it. It's Fili for me. Fili or bust. Next up, we got the biggest favorite on the card, Mansur Abdul-Malik taking on Nick Klein. Abdul-Malik, a minus 909 favorites. Klein can be had for plus 600. I mean, one back watch, there wasn't too much tape, obviously, to watch. Malik is undefeated in his career, 7-0. Running through pretty much everybody. The Contender Series fight, he ate some, like, this guy's young, developing, learning kind of on the job in a lot of respects. So, credit where credit's due. He's 7-0 and he's, finishing everybody. The West Schultz fight, he definitely did take he was eating some like really sloppy shots that I wasn't like all that impressed with, but it's a prospect we're dealing with. When we see like somebody, developing on the fly. Dushko, like that wasn't even competitive. Like Dushko wasn't really able to do much. Absolutely just got stomped out of the joints. So I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that like Malik is a talent, somebody to like watch out for as we move on. But like the books are being like, hey, he's minus 1,000. He wins 90% of the time. I think the problem with like laying the wood, feeling too overly confident with someone like this at that type of price is that we just haven't really fully seen what he's capable of, what flaws he has, where he could be exploited. And the only thing that I've really seen that like where I thought he could be exploited was Wes Schultz, who is a teammate of Nick Klein's from Pura Vida BJJ in Milwaukee. It was able to land some strikes in that Contender Series fight. I thought the striking defense looked a little bit susceptible in that spot. Nick Klein, on the other hand, I mean, he's a fan favorite. If you watch any of this guy's interviews, pretty cool guy. Blue collar, don't know exactly what his profession is, but like pretty down to earth guy. I could see him being a fan favorite because like his style is like kind of all action. A lot of his fights on the regional scene, lower level of competition. I went back, watched the fight against Dorjan Dokai, who you're familiar with from the Canadian regional scene, and that was not a pretty performance for him. I thought the gas tank looked very, very questionable. And Dokai was able to get him out of there in round 3. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Like, do I think Abdul-Malik wins? Yes. Do I think he's probably the more physically imposing guy in this situation? Yes. Well, am I overly impressed by Nick Klein's win against Geraldo Souza on Contender Series, where he literally just like shot out of a cannon, just went for it, grabbed onto the neck. He wasn't even necessarily grabbing like, positionally setting himself up for success. He just was like a dog on the bone trying to get that contract, and credit where credit's due. He did get the contract. I don't think that's going to work against higher levels of competition, but I don't know if it's completely out of the realm of possibility that he could like front run, find a submission real quick here. I think Mansur Abdul-Malik is the better long-term prospect, but at minus 1,000, there's no way for me to get involved. Like a Klein sub, Klein round 1 sub, if you want to get real greasy, it's like, I feel like those are the only real plays that I would feel comfortable, dropping a small sprinkle on. It's an avoid fight for the most part, outside of some like absolute long shots. What you take here?
Yeah, I mean, minus 1,000, what can you do with it? My approach to it would be Malik by TKO. But, well, yeah, what are you getting on that? So then I would probably get real greasy with it and chase like a Malik TKO second round or third round, something like that. It's no disrespect. Like, if Klein's win conditions probably win right away. But you mentioned the Dorian Dokaj fight, and yet those are my opinions of him. He was 3-0. He came to Canada. Kudos to him. Got out of his comfort zone. Came down here and fought a guy that's like average at best. And yeah, I don't know. His wrestling's not that good. His ability to get the fight to the ground really wasn't that good. He completely gassed himself out, and then he gets TKO'd in the third. That fight was almost 3 years ago. In those 3 years, he's fought 3 times. That's it. He's not super active. He's not constantly in the gym improving. He's got a full-time job, and he was luckily enough to go back, beat Cullen Huckbody, which if you know Cullen Huckbody, he's like very unathletic. And then Corey Simpson's 22 wins, 21 losses. And then Kabamo, you are on the Contender Series. And then, like Paul mentioned, yeah, shot out of a cannon. Like, he knew Dana was right there. He's the betting underdog. He's got quite literally nothing to lose. He's had 2 fights in the last 2 years, probably for $500. Yeah, what's got to lose? He just goes right at Souza right away, and then there's a crazy scramble. He grabs the neck. It's a deep bite. He gets a hook in, bam, puts him away. How can you not sign a guy off that? Meanwhile, other guys have won quick, and it's like, Bo Nickel, show me some more. If the UFC was truly the NFL, neither of these guys would be in the UFC. They'd be in like the developmental league. They should both be in LFA. Win an LFA title, get some more seasoning. I agree with your assessment. Mansur Malik is the better prospect, and he eventually will be good. But he himself is super green. He's got 7 pro fights. Nick Klein is a 6-1 record. He's got 7 pro fights. Like, you shouldn't be in the UFC. It's crazy to me. But it's just like different times. They got contender series. You want to fight in front of Dana, and he was feeling good that night. And you got a contract, and now you're here. But I can't shake it that the Dorian Dokaj fight 3 years ago, but 3 fights ago. And I just didn't really like what he brought to the table. His win conditions win right away. If it doesn't materialize, I don't love it. Malik, Mansur Malik, sorry. He wrestled collegiately at the University of Maryland. So like he's got a solid enough wrestling background. If you check up his wrestling stats, not a good wrestler, not an all-American, but he wrestled in college, and that does count for something. The guy's a very good athlete. He eventually leaves wrestling, comes over to MMA. He gets rounds in South Florida over at MMA Masters. Guy moves like a good athlete. You can see all of his wins, other than Wes Schultz. Paul mentioned, we'll bring that up. All of his wins are first round finishes. So that Wes Schultz fight, that's kind of the knock on him, is what if you don't finish Wes Schultz in the first round? And he didn't. And in the second round, he's still putting a beating on him. Like, Wes Schultz is now tired and hurt. And I feel like Mansur Malik did a good enough job of persevering through it and getting the finish materializing in the second. Dusko, he knocks him out in the first again. He's initially supposed to take on Antonio Tricoli. So again, I'm just hoping that he's still working on his craft and getting his cardio up and tightening all these holes. But Paul, you're seeing the exact same thing I'm seeing when you watch him. It's like, yeah, this guy could be good, but he's not good right now.
Yeah.
He's not good at this very moment. He looks like a good athlete. He's got an educated jab. I like his reactionary takedowns. He's a big guy for the weight class as well. It really seems like he'd be able to good timing, good rhythm, but inexperienced, less than 10 pro fights. 27's not young. Like at that point, that's not a problem. Maturity's probably fine. It's that like when you smash 6 guys in the first round, you don't learn a ton. Wes Schultz, you pointed this out, he's hitting him. He's doing some good work. He's getting some good scrambles going. Klein might be able to do the exact same thing, and you're holding a 10-1 ticket. So like, I really do not love the money line, but I do think he wins the fight. Got a lot of crazy underdogs on this card, sure. Klein's not one of them, but the price is so goddamn tempting, but it's not for me.
That's fair enough. We got Javid Basharat taking on Ricky Simone. Minus 270 for Basharat, plus 220 for Ricky. Ricky at home. It's been a rough go for Ricky, right? Like Ricky was kind of like one of those like unsung guys people were thinking like could potentially be, in the title picture, all of that type of good stuff. And it's really fallen off for him recently. What lost his last 3. The biggest frustration, and I believe we both backed him against Vincius Oliveira. And credit where credit's due, Vincius Oliveira is like, cost me some money over the last little bit. He's definitely turned out to be a lot better than I was giving him credit off of Contender Series and from his regional tape and stuff like that. But the biggest frustration, like watching Ricky in that fight, it's like he really just, it's like he almost forgot what brought him to the dance, what made him a guy, a force to be reckoned with in the bantamweight division. It's like that wrestling. He had 2 takedowns by the books in that 3-round fight, only 31 seconds of control time. And if I feel like some of these like stats of like the takedowns, like being a little bit generous on what constitutes a takedown attempt, to be perfectly honest, because like watching that fight back and watching that fight in the moment felt like that's not, he was not really commit. Maybe they count as an attempt, but it's like he really didn't fully commit to those things. Of course, maybe he's getting hurt at range against someone like Vincius, but not something that he's just a guy that I find it really, really hard to back at this point in his career. Are we? I think it's Basharat for me, and like Basharat by decision. If you want to get a little bit more juicy, I just the Basharat bros generally don't finish anybody. So, Ricky, at least at the very least, he's in front of his home crowd, everything like that. Maybe that's how you break down a price that's a little bit steep. Ricky at home, but like got Basharat by decision. It's how I will probably approach this fight. What's the odds on that? Just pulling it up over on coolbet.com. Promo code DOP to get a match up to $200 on your first deposit. Winner by decision method of victory. Basharat by decision. That's pretty chalky, minus 161. How are you approaching this fight? Because all of the thing it seems pretty accurately priced to me, Cody. That's the struggle that I've got from a betting man's perspective. Basharat is the pick, though. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this card's either like really big favorites that have no value or like a bunch of salty underdogs that I think are going to win. So, like, where are my minus 200 range guys that I really do think are going to win? And Basharat is that guy. So, like, I would hate to top ticket him, but he's going to have to take some action from me this week because he's just like a lot better valued, I guess I should say. Honestly, I'm echoing all the same sentiments. I got Basharat by decision, and then if for whatever reason something went eerily wrong and that didn't hit, I got the over unders on this. The fight goes the distance on this. If you want to get really greasy as like a one little get out of jail free card, is take Ricky Simone by split decision. Because like his style is very much grind up on you and he's at home, but there's no way that three conscious-minded human beings are going to say he won the fight. But there might be two of them because, as Paul mentioned, Salty Amato and Mike Bell, Chris Lee. Oh, he might be the worst of all of them. That's in play. Ricky's at home, 3-fight losing streak, probably putting his gloves down in the center of the ring after the fight. I'm out, but I could see somebody thinking it's a pretty good feel-good story, and he will be grinding up against him, and sometimes they factor that in. To double down what Paul was saying, though, is that Ricky Simone went 2 for 11 on takedown against with Vinicius with the 31 seconds of control time. Paul mentioned that. But what Paul didn't mention is his fight right before that against Mario Batista. He goes 2 for 13 on takedowns. And his fight right before that against Song Yadong, he goes 2 for 9 with 51 seconds of control time. And it's exactly what Paul mentioned. He can get you to the ground as in you're on one knee, as in you're on your butt at the base of the cage, but he has no long periods of control time. And when your game's predicated on power wrestling and chain wrestling and go, 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 you can't exert that much energy to get nothing in return from it. It's going to help he's at home because he's not landing any ground and pound. He's getting it worked in all of these fights. It's that, yeah, maybe he can take you down. For my money's worth, he's landed 6 of his last 34 takedown attempts. And of that, he had 3 minutes of control time against Mario Batista in a fight that he also lost all the rounds. But 51 seconds against Yadong and 31 seconds against Vinicius. I think he's at the tail end. He's only 31, but at bantamweight, he's just not fighting the same fights. And Paul mentioned, what brought him to the dance. Yeah, power wrestling guys, but it's not effective anymore. He's got a I guess his reach is not terrible at 69 inches, but 5'6", he pulls a lot of his punches, right? Yeah, I knocked out Raffael Sunsao. Yeah, outside of that, his striking is just a little mechanical. He's throwing one or two at a time. He might blitz forward, but it's only to throw 1, 2, maybe an overhand, drop levels, shoot the takedown. If the takedowns aren't materializing, it's problematic. If the takedowns do materialize, but you can't get more than 20, 30 seconds of control time out of it, it's problematic. 3-fight losing streak, not good. Now, you're 100% right. I bet him against Vinicius. And it's not that he lost because Vinicius ended up being pretty good. It's that he looked so disinterested, like he just didn't care to be there. A lot of those 11 takedown attempts, they're not real takedown attempts. He like drops levels and like fakes it, or like he gets like one single underhook and then just bails. Like he just doesn't want to be there. Now, Vinicius hits hard. I'm not going to question that. But like that was the first time it was like Ricky don't want to go into the fire. And if you're unwilling to do that, I can't get behind you in a prize fight from a betting standpoint. I can't. Good guy, sure, sweet mullet, love it. But from a betting standpoint, it's like that there. I didn't care who they booked against him next. It's like he just looks disinterested, like he doesn't want to be there. Now they say we're coming to Seattle and he's got family and he's not really from there, but he's got family and connections in the area. And of course, you're going to put him on a card there. And they come Javid Basharat, but Here's where he got to lose the fight. So his last win is Jack Shore. Jack Shore retired like one fight later, and Jack Shore's a 135er that eventually moved up to 145 and then bailed altogether. Hafala Sunsao retired right away. Brian Kelleher lost his next 4 fights, retired. Gaetano Perello, like who? Come on. Ray Borg, actually, that's his last UFC fight. He retired as well. He got a good little streak, 5 straight wins. None of it's really of substance. And now that he's been taking on high mid top guys, he's just going through the motions. Javid Basharat, he has been taken down, but to his credit, he got taken down twice by Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely's a 3-time state champion out of Virginia, also wrestled collegiately for Appalachian State, trains out of American Top Team, very good athlete. He gets him down twice, but he doesn't get shit with it. A minute 43 of control time within his 2 takedowns. And his 2 takedowns was 2 out of 13, right? Matus Mendonca, that's about the only thing Mendonca can do is that he can wrestle a little bit. Strong guy. He gets 2 minutes of control time with his 2 takedowns, 2 out of 11. Ricky's going to do the same thing. He's going to go 2 for 10, 2 for 11, and get a minute and a half of control time. And the rest of the fight's going to be at range where Javid's not landing power punches, but he's outworking him. He's outworking him 2-1. Final striking stats are 74-48 in favor of Basharat. 2 takedowns for Ricky Simone, but no control time. Basharat even mixed in 1 takedown of his own. He takes a 29-28 worst case scenario. I got him winning. I got overs on this thing. I got the decision. I got all that. But yeah, I think Javid Basharat wins. Ricky from a few years ago seems a little more interesting, but his style has just not progressed. And Basharat, this is what they do. Grapple, grapple, grapple. His cardio is looking better. His striking's better. I wouldn't say he's much of a finisher, but again, it's like if Ricky doesn't want to be there, the finish is going to materialize. But I got that. I don't care about that because I got the overs. So no finish materializes. Hit me an over. Hit me Javid Basharat by decision.
Yeah, I kind of just think that the fight takes place on the feet, and Basharat just has a more well-rounded skill set in that realm. So yeah, split decision wouldn't surprise me though, because now we're getting into the part of the card that if you think a fight goes to decision, it's not out of the realm of possibility that there's a judge who only works on like in the Washington State regional scene that you've never heard of before, that he or she is going to get an opportunity down here, right? Like they like to do that. They rarely ever do it on the main card for like the bigger stakes fights, but like you'll see it a lot of time. See it all the time when they come up here, where you would have like Jaron Vallel and stuff like that. Being the judge of some of the earlier fights.
Oh yeah, Jaron Vallel is quite possibly the worst judge and referee.
I wasn't gonna throw daggers at him, but yes,
he is awful, 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 awful. God, I hope they don't bring him down. But the truth be told, I would take some random person at a Kmart over the judges that the UFC use on a regular Saturday night basis. In that, who doesn't remember? Remember when you were in high school, Paul, and you go back to class and there was a fight like at recess, there was a fight at lunch break, or there was a fight at school. Did you ever hear the other kids be like, Johnny and Mark fought. Who won? Oh, I don't know. It's like Johnny kicked Mark's ass. There's a winner. Regular person sees a fight. They realize their brain registers that guy won the fight. UFC judges, it's like, but this guy had 2 takedowns. It's like, whose face is busted? Who's huffing and puffing? Who landed the blows? Who's going to the hospital after? What do I know? I would take the local ass random judges before I take Saul D'Amato and Chris Lee. And who's the girl? I won't throw under the bus.
That's famous Adelaide Bird.
Paul threw under the bus for me. Just the worst bunch of human beings, man. Just the worst.
Yeah, they're all bad regardless. But sometimes you do get like sometimes you get like really random. And it feels like it's been a while since it's happened, but they haven't been going on the road nearly as much like over the last like 4 or 5 years. Obviously, COVID, everything like that. But you go into some market that doesn't get MMA all the time, and like you could tell, especially in those early prelims, that like some of these scorecards are just egregious. You always have to be prepared for that to happen. And if it does happen, it tends to happen in the first like 4 or 5 fights.
What I would hope is that they're just young guys, don't know anything about them, but that they're just younger referees. Because what I will say is, if you've been watching boxing since the 90s, like the same people judging these UFC fights are these same shitty boxing judges, and they're all old. Like, how old is David Crosby? How old is Saul D'Amato? Because they're so old that eventually Paul and I worked at Fight Network together, and there was certain people, not everyone, a lot of really good people. There were just certain people along the way that's like they just been there so long, they just know better than you. Well, I've seen this many fights. I've been to this many events. I know better than you. But we're young. We're actually watching tape study. So there'd be fights like Andrei Arlovski versus Francis Ngannou, and Paul and I are like, this Francis guy is going to quite literally kill him. And it's like you got Anthony Hamilton fought Francis Ngannou, and we were told that we were idiots for taking Francis Ngannou because you don't know because the guy's done so many, just knows so much more that you're not willing to learn. These judges are not willing to learn. They just cast a shitty ballot. And then someone says, you don't know what you're looking at. And they say, I've done 137 pay-per-views. I've done 10,000 fights. It's like, do you watch tape? Do you look back at the fight and be like, yeah, that was a close decision. Let me watch it back. Do you care? Do you just know better than everybody else? I bet you some random intern from this commission getting his first reps, getting in there. He cares. He goes to the referee courses. He goes to the seminars. He wants to learn. Get these old heads out of here. They don't know what they're watching anymore. I used to say don't replace the judges with ex-fighters because ex-fighters got a lot of biases and they got certain styles. They're going to prefer their certain styles, but that train of thought is long gone. They need to replace them with former fighters, man. Has anybody ever said Chris Lieben blew a scorecard? Has Chris Lieben ever had a bad stoppage? No? Has every other guy? Yeah? Well, yeah, maybe there's something to it. Frank Triggs. Anybody shitting on Frank Triggs reffing? I never heard of anybody. Does anybody shit on every other single referee? Yeah, because they're awful. Give me former fighters, man, 100%. Just make sure they're not from that area. Like if you fought your old career out of California, then, use them other places. Maybe don't use them in California if you think that there's going to be a conflict of interest. But, they know what they're looking at. These random guys that haven't fought in the sport, I haven't fought in the sport, I get it. These random old ass guys that were like, well, I did judo back in the 80s and I come from boxing and I come from some traditional martial arts background. Like, man, that is not 97 anymore. Need to update it. They don't have to update the judging system or the criteria. They need to update the judges themselves. But hopefully whoever we got on Saturday night is on our side, man. Let's hit some tickets. I need them. I need them. But I mean, leaving it in their hands. Whew, tricky proposition, right?
Hondo P. Hondo P, bruh. All right, let's move on. We've got Nikolay Veretennikov taking on Austin Vanderford. Veretennikov, a minus 155 favorite. Vanderford can be had for plus 135. I have it listed as a welterweight fight. I'm actually, while you were talking there, I noticed that some places have it listed as a catch weight. This was like a super late add to the card. I don't know the exact number of pounds. Maybe it's 180 or maybe it's 180. Maybe it's 175. Either way, I struggle to back Vanderford. I mean, if the UFC really wanted this guy, they would have signed him. 2018, he was on Contender Series. They weren't all that impressed. That was when Page was, at least a popular star inside of the octagon. They never really went back to the guy. Bellator did what they could with him, but getting knocked out by Aaron Jeffrey, great Bellator fighter. Hopefully makes his way over to the UFC, but it's like not a guy who particularly has like big time power. That's a bit of a red flag. His last win in the LFA is against some guy who's like 13-8. He's going through it. 2021, I guess Fabian Edwards, 2021. That's like his last like legit win. Veretennikov, I know he's 0-2 in the UFC, but he had two competitive fights here. Morales is an absolute, a monster, a big young prospect. Was able to get 4 takedowns on him, but his striking totals at the very least were competitive. And then Danny Hand to God Barlow, absolute masher, power puncher. Very, very close fight, ends in split decision. So I think Veretnikov's the side here. There has been some money coming in on Vanderford. I think that probably has more to do with the fact that, he's Paige Van Zandt's husband. He's a lot more popular. Some people, probably are, subscribe to their OnlyFans and whatever the hell's going on over there with them. That's none of my business. Has nothing to do with like what's going to happen in terms of a sports bet, anything like that. But I think Veretennikov is the side here. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Austin Vanderford. I'm not really buying the hype that he's taking it on a few days' notice and that he doesn't deserve to be there. I think he's known about it for at least longer than 3 days, and he's probably ready. The class thing, man, that's super interesting because I thought it was at 170 as well, and that's part of why I got this theory that I'm about to jump into, but it could be a catch weight as well. I'm not 100% sure. But keep in consideration, like Austin Vanderford fought his entire Bellator career at 185 pounds. His last fight for LFA was at 170. His early part of his pro career is at 170. In fact, Austin Vanderford's undefeated at 170 pounds. But yeah, no, he did lose to Mousasi and Aaron Jeffrey up at 185. If this is 170, I think it's a much better class for him. And the fact that they're saying he took it on 3 days' notice for a guy that walks around, he's fought at 195 as well, back as an amateur. He walks around just under 200 pounds. There's no way he's making 170 on 3 days' notice. So he knew about it. Now, here's another thing why he knew about it. It's a fight night in Seattle. They're looking to sell some tickets. So Paige Van Zandt's husband, that's a great angle, sure. But beyond that is that they both live in Portland, Oregon. He went to school at Southern Oregon University, where he was an NAIA national champion, and he's got tons of friends and family in the Oregon area. Seattle to Portland's a 3 hour drive. Beyond that is that he's initially from Alaska. This is a bit of a stretch, I know, but he's from Alaska. He's got tons of friends and family in Alaska. Alaska, although it's a 4 hour flight from Seattle, Seattle's basically the closest American city to Alaska, right? It's right at the tip of the West Coast. So they knew he'd be a draw in this market. They put him on. They keep saying he's short notice. Okay, he's short 3 days notice. Austin Vanderford stepped up to take this fight. That's what they keep saying. But again, they knew he would be a ticket seller in this market. The fact that he maybe is making 170 pounds on this short of notice definitely suggests that he's been in camp. And check this, Nikolay Veretennikov was supposed to fight last week against Billy Ray Goff. He pulled out. Veretennikov pulled out. They didn't say why he pulled out. He pulled out against Billy Ray Goff. They say, let's move you 1 week over down in Seattle from Vegas, and you can fight Austin Vanderford. He knew. He knew he'd be fighting somebody. Maybe they didn't readily have somebody, and then for whatever reason, Veretennikov pulls out this week, but is good to fight next week. Could be visa, could be he didn't feel good, could have been whatever. Problem is that he's just as short notice as Austin Vanderford. Okay, so Nikolay Veretennikov, he's from Kazakhstan, wins his pro debut in Kazakhstan, moves to Russia, goes 0-3 in Russia. Then he leaves Russia and moves to Texas. His entire career has been at the Texas regional scene level up until lately, and obviously he breaks through on Contender Series and makes it to the UFC. He's a striker through and through. He has 12 wins, 10 of them are by knockout. That's what he does. His takedown defense is not very good. He fought against Michael Morales on the Contender Series back in 2021. Michael Morales at the time was 22 years old, very green, comes in, takes him down 4 times, controls him, beats him up on the ground, right? Michael Morales is apparently an Ecuadorian wrestling champion, and also his parents are both judo black belts, but I wouldn't say he's like some excellent wrestler. There's the path of victory. Is this guy is a striker. He's not overly big for the weight class. He's dynamic in that if he hits you, he's going to hurt you, but he's fought in almost exclusively salty Texas regional scene veterans. That's it, right? Now he's taking on a guy in Austin Vanderford that's a 2 time Alaskan state champion. You're probably laughing at home. 2 state championships in Alaska. First of all, 2 of them. Second of all, Alaska's ranked 29th out of 50 states for wrestling in the USA, slightly coming behind Wyoming at 28. He's not, and then he went over to Oregon and won an NAIA national championship, right? So he knows how to wrestle. Knows how to wrestle. That's the path of victory. Now, people keep drumming up this whole, he almost beat Danny Barlow. Danny Barlow, top prospect. Okay, Danny Barlow has got 8 pro fights, absolute, young, up-and-coming guy, very little experience, most definitely not a wrestler. And people are like really quick to forget that Danny Barlow in that fight, he missed weight. He came in at 171.3. He missed weight by 0.3 of a pound. He absolutely looked sick and gassed out the halfway point of that fight. And he still won it. Bad third round, sure. He still won the fight. Bad weight cut. Barlow still to this day says worst performance of his career because of an atrociously bad weight cut. Okay, fair. But in this case, it's like, yeah, Veretennikov still lost that fight. And everybody else he's been fighting has been strikers. DeMarcus Jackson, Anthony Ivy. Anthony Ivy can wrestle, but the fight's done in the first 2 minutes. Texas boy. Steve Jones, Texas boy. Melvin Jordan, Texas boy. Clovis Hancock, Artanis Young, Charlie Ontiveros, UFC veteran. All Texas boys. He's going to get taken down. He's going to come out looking to strike, and Vanderford will probably pop out a few of them, and then Vanderford's just going to pile in on this guy and dump him to the ground. Now you look at Vanderford's record. He's winning fights in Bellator at 185 pounds. His two losses in Bellator, Aaron Jeffrey, Gegard Mousasi. He's got a win over Fabian Edwards. Fabian Edwards has wins over Aaron Jeffrey and Gegard Mousasi. He's right at that level, man. He's fighting the best middleweights in the organization. And in fact, these are actually some of the best middleweights in the world. Top 20 guys at a very minimum. And he's holding his own. Yeah, he gets knocked out twice. Fair. But at 170, less of a chance. His wrestling should be better at 170. Bigger, stronger, more physical guy. Fighting 3 rounds shouldn't be a problem. Clear edge. I don't think he's durable. Fair. You're right about that. And if it was Veretennikov as the underdog, you could drum up this narrative of puncher's chance. Jeffrey knocked him out. Jeffrey's only ever knocked out one guy in the first round ever in his entire career. Vanderford. Gegard Mousasi, yeah, I'll give him a pass on that one. But his fight on the Contender Series against Angelo Trevino, he got knocked down in that fight too. So I don't think he's got very good durability. But at 170, I think he's just going to be too physically strong with his wrestling game. He's going to back. Oh, and the last thing is Veretennikov doesn't cut angles. You seen last week with Yusuf Zalal? Left, right. He's moving laterally, right? This guy is just going straight back to the cage. All of Vanderford's best takedowns, double legs, up against the cage. He's just going to hand it to him on a silver platter. Vanderford underdog, I will take it. But yeah, short notice, let me watch weigh-ins, blah, 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 blah. I got Vanderford, better style. Give me the power wrestling. He's not coming in to lose. Paige Van Zandt leaves his ass. What's this guy's career looks like? He's got ears like Dumbo the elephant. Like, she's not with him for the looks. She's with him because he needs to start making some money. Her OnlyFans is the only thing paying the bills. She's taking bare knuckle boxing matches. She's taking power slap matches. She's taking whatever she can to pay the bills. Austin, you got to go out there and get a win, baby. Seattle, close to Alaska, close to Portland. This is at home. This is as close as he's going to get to at home. Go out and do something with it, man. A win in the UFC at this stage of your career, 34 years old, Mr. Van Zandt, like shake it. Shake it and go be the best version of yourself that you can be. I'm taking it, baby. Vanderford plus money.
It's his old home. It's his old home because they train Coconut Creek, Florida. ATT these days.
They move back and forth, but ATT has a satellite gym in Portland, Oregon called ATT Portland. And
I know, but I was doing some homework, doing some research on Paige's Instagram and saw like pictures of like
fans. It's okay. You're doing some
not only fans, not only fans.
I believe
I was on Instagram and I saw pictures of her and Karolina Kovalkiewicz doing a bit of a collaboration of work because Carolina's making the monies that way as well, I guess now. But
what?
Yeah, buddy, they had a nice little Christmas. They were all dressed up in some they looked like Santa's helpers.
I've seen a lot of movies that started out with Santa's helpers. Yeah. And let me tell you something.
Similar to those types of movies.
Carolina had to go maybe 6-7 years ago, but I'm out on that train. Paige, I think everybody's got a soft spot for Paige. If you don't got a soft spot for Paige, you got a soft spot somewhere else. And I'm saying. But yeah, Vanderford needs to keep his wife happy, and a win here would do that. So, and I want to stay happy too. Get me a plus money ticket over a guy that really can't wrestle or grapple. Straight up striker, a little bit undersized, hasn't fought the level of competition. Last thing I'll say, Paul says they're in Coconut Creek. Boom, perfect. He knew he had a fight coming up, which is why he moved over to the main ATT facility to get ready. So they're lying when they say he took it on 3 days' notice.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that like we do the Patreon stuff now, and we're over in the Discord. So it's just like there's like 7-8 regional cards this week. It's just like some of these UFC stuff is just like, well, I don't necessarily need to force a play. I know you do the PRP and stuff, so it's like it is what it is, but there's so many opportunities every single week that it's like I don't have to force a play unless I see something at weigh-ins on Veretennikov versus Vanderford. There's just so many other things that I can do with my money rather than get invested in something that maybe I'm not fully fleshed out on quite yet. But Speaking of the Patreon, we broke down Eric McConico's fight last week. Was it last week or the week before? Either way, short. He was supposed to
Last
be
week.
on the.
Tough
He was
enough.
supposed to be the main event of one of the cards, and got the call up to the UFC, taking on Nursulton Ruziboev. I liked what I saw from McConico when I was watching that tape. We were preparing for him last week. Many regional cards. The name of the
Tough
card
enough. Yeah.
is Tough Enough. Yes. Yeah, Tough Enough. He was supposed to be the main event. He was supposed to take on Randall Wallace, and we quite liked him at like minus 300 ish against Randall Wallace. Broke it all down. Links in the description for the Patreon, all that good stuff. If you want to get involved and you want more from what we've been doing over there, lots of fun, good times in the Discord, everything like that. But we liked him a lot, and we kind of like compared him to like Cannonier in the sense that it's like a guy who maybe had a bit of a slow start in his career, but has moved over to the MMA lab in Arizona, and it's kind of found his way, kind of found it's kind of rounded out his game, and he's entering the best part of his career right now. Ruzi, on the other hand, coming in here, this fight is taking place at middleweight. Ruzi was down at 170 last time out. Ruzi was supposed to take on at UFC 308. Interesting enough, he was supposed to take on Renat Fakhretdinov and then withdrew and then takes this fight at 185. So maybe he's like giving up on the whole. I mean, Ruziboev is so enormous that like the thought of how he made 170 pounds to fight Buckley is just kind of like alarming. But yeah, we know with Ruziboev, guy hits super hard, super aggressive. But if he doesn't get you out of there in the first round, I think he's there for the taking. I think it's very much in play that it's too much for McConico coming in here. But you put minus 303 next to Ruziboev, and I get very nervous about a guy who most of his success is going to come in the first like 7.5 minutes. McConico late props have my eye this week, waiting for books to actually release those. It's obviously early in the card, so everyone's a little bit slow to that. At Cool Bet, what do they have? They've got McConico winner in specials round 3, 18-1. That's pretty typical of where market is at right now. McConico live is how I want to make sure the guy doesn't get his head knocked off, but McConico live and perhaps a little sprink on McConico round 3. Because I think if Ruziboev doesn't get that first round finish, that first 7.5 minute finish, like McConico's got some things that could cause some big problems for him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's a much better live betting fight. And that McConico, like I could say for a 34-year-old making his debut, like there's no long-term upside here. But yeah, he's got some skills, he's got some pace. He was training for a fight against Buddy Wallace to headline Tough Enough. He was in Vegas. All good stuff. MMA Lab, one of the top gyms out of Arizona. I do like him. It's just, his losses in his career, Andre Walker knocked him out, Dejan Kadjic knocked him out. Kadjic was at a catch weight of 175. That very next fight, which he lost also by knockout, was at 205. So he bounces up and down weight. I wouldn't say he's like a spectacular athlete. He's a little bit slow in there. It's that he puts a constant pace on you. It's that we've seen him get knocked out twice, and then even the Maki Pitolo fight, at least certainly in the first half of the fight, Mackey's landing plenty of good shots. He certainly gets his attention. It's just eventually Mackey gasses out. McConico's going to win this fight. That's how he's going to win. Same way as that Mackey fight. He's maybe face some early adversity, maybe lose the first round, second and the third round. He's really got to push that pace on him and break him. But if he loses the first, you're going to get a much better price than you're getting right now. And then at that point, you can make the live judgment. Does it look like Ruziboev is slowing down? Does it look like McConico is still confident and moving forward and willing to take his punches? Has he taken his best shot already? And now he's, starting to dog walk him and started to lose some of that respect in the striking and put it on him himself. Yeah, it's all stuff that you'll be able to figure out live. But this is just a total coin flip until then. I honestly think Ruziboev is the better fighter, but there's just so much I don't like about him. Keep in mind, it's like he's got almost 40 fights. So he's the most experienced guy on this entire card. He's 31 years old. He's got more fights than anybody else on this card. It's just they're all so salty for organizations that may or may not have existed. And it's all striking. And we saw his brother, Little Ruzi, 2 weeks back. He takes a fight on short notice, shows up like a just like a bag of milk on the scale, and then they just cancel the fight altogether. Weight cutting complications. He didn't even get on the scale. It was just, oh, he couldn't do it. They both have a bunch of suspicious. Tapology says some of them are not real fights. They both have a bunch of them, 30, 40 of them. Then for Ruziboev, he's 6'5". He debuts in the UFC against Ferreira. He knocks him out in the first round at 185. His very next fight against Cedric Dumas, dumbass, he also knocks him out in the first round at 185. Why would you then decide to drop down to 170 pounds? Why? Why, Paul Shaughnessy? But there's Ruziboev brothers. Like, I've seen more professionalism at a rub and tug. Like, I don't know exactly
Whoa.
what. I don't know exactly who's running their camp. They're out of Philly. They train with great guys. Paul Felder's got great things to say about them, but like the whole career is just so salty, man. But you watch the tape on it, and it's like Joaquin Buckley's a top contender in the division, and like Ruziboev, yeah, he's a big, long striker. That fight gets out of the first. You'd expect him to completely gas, and like he does gas, but it's mostly Buckley taking him down and pressuring him. And really, Buckley's an athletic guy; he's able to shoot under the strikes. McConico, he likes his takedowns up against the cage from the clinch. He doesn't have a good double leg. He doesn't get a good single leg. Like, where's he going to take him down? So now he's getting stuck on the end of his punches. His whole style is predicated on break into the pocket, start working the body, have you up against the cage. But Ruziboev, like he lost to Buckley, no one's denying that. But like Buckley's good, and like he didn't look like a I faked all these fights. I don't know what I'm doing. He looked like he knew what he was doing, but he may have fixed some fights along the way. So minus 300, honestly, I really don't like it. But you see from the sheer amount of underdogs that we do have on the card at some point, it's like, are you just spamming underdogs? It's like, no,
Maybe.
no, I'm not. Yeah, well, you could, and it would work out quite well because all you need is like one of these McConico guys wins, and a few of these other plus 225, plus 230. There's even better on some spots. There's lots of plus money to be had, but I think for McConico, it's like again, he's 34. He's a career regional show level guy. His best career win, Maki Patolo, simply because it's a UFC veteran, and that's the best. Ruziboev, like, yeah, there's nothing great, but he's got a nasty uppercut from a rear side. You step in to get past that range, and he just cracks you straight up the middle with the uppercut. Got a lot of power. He likes to attack the neck. From his like 34 wins, I think 30 of them were by way of finish. And then where I would be totally off this guy if he gassed out after one round versus Buckley, he never quit on himself. And even in the third round, he's getting his ass kicked and he illegally upkicks Buckley in the face to create some space and get up. It's like he's trying. That's all I can ask for a guy. So I think Ruziboev back at 185 should be better for him, but don't bet it till you see the weigh-ins and then probably a better live bet. But because I got to make a pre-fight pick right now, I'll take Ruziboev.
All right, finally, we got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Raffael Cerqueira. Bukauskas is a minus 294 favorite. Cerqueira can be at plus 240. Who you like?
Yeah, like Cerqueira's just not good. So again, debuts in the UFC at 34 years old, but he's just a really salty Brazilian regional scene veteran. I mean, he went 11-0 on the regional scene, and they're all inside the distance. Every single one? No, that's a lie. One decision win. So 11-0 with 10 finishes inside the distance, all against lower level of competition. 34 years old. You watch him. Go back and watch this Iverson Diaz fight, right? He's fighting a 1-1 guy, even though he's 9-0. And this guy, for at least long until the last 4 minutes, gives him everything he can handle. He's a big guy. He doesn't look like he's a terrible athlete. He moves okay. He sticks a jab out there. But what he does is when you start to fire offense back, he shells. He just shells up against the cage. Doesn't move his feet. He just shells his arms up. Alistair Overeem had a tendency to do it back in the day, and all of his like real big highlight knockouts is like he shells, and then one gets through and knocks him out. Frank Mir had a problem where he started doing the same shit, shell, one gets through and knocks you out. This is what he does. But he does it against Iverson Diaz. It's not a very good fight for him, but he does win. Gets into the UFC by way of he's supposed to be on the Contender Series. His opponent pulled out. They rebooked him. His opponent pulled out. They rebooked him. Then they were like, you know what? We need a guy short notice. Why don't you just jump in the UFC against Ibo? Ibo does nothing other than just throws. He's very robotic. He's stiff. He's not a great athlete. He's flat-footed, but he moves straight and he likes to throw. What does this idiot do? The same thing he did against Iverson Diaz is he backs straight to the cage and he shells. And he shells and he shells and he shells and one slips and KOs him. And at 34, you're just not going to learn any better. He's 11-0. He's done the same rinky-dink shit on the regional show that's got him 11-0. And now in the UFC, he's got nothing else to jump to. For Modestas Bukauskas, I'd say he's definitely better on the ground. He's faster. He's a better athlete. He's a better striker. I think if this fight strictly stays standing, Bukauskas can win. If this fight hits the ground, Bukauskas all day long. If Modestas can split in between striking a little bit and then just mix in some takedowns, he's either going to submit him or put him away. The one thing that makes you really not load up on this thing, though, is Metallica's, he's got durability issues. Back in the day, John Redmond, who was 5-11, knocked him out in the first round. Then you see him against Jimmy Crute, knocked out in the first round. Khalil Roundtree did not knock him out. He shredded his knee with a side kick. It was so nasty. But then Vitor Petrino did knock him out a minute into the second round. And that last fight with Marcin Prachnio, he eats a head kick in the second round, inches away from putting him out. He's got durability issues. And Raffael won't do anything other than maybe he can land something standing early. But there's not enough depth for me to take Raffael. I think Modestas, the longer it goes, better. But there is a chance he gets knocked out early. I'm not going to discredit that. Pick for me. But could you put Modestas Bukauskas on your top line? Like, no. He's not that kind of guy. There's a path to victory there for Raffael, but watch the regional show tape on Raffael. Awful. Watch his UFC debut. Real awful. You can't take away from the fact that Modestas has actually won 3 of his last 4 UFC fights and overall has won 5 of his last 6. So I think he wins. And similar to Javid, he's at least one of these guys that's not, he's less than 3-1 and he should win. I like Javid. I don't love Modestas. I think both of them win. I'll definitely have some shares of both guys.
Yeah, I mean, Cerqueira's never been out of the second round.
One time, one decision, right? Or yeah, no, yeah,
No, never.
No, never. Did I not just read it? Yeah, his 4th career fight, Fernando Filo. He won.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
No, it's all good.
There's a lot of
Everything else is
R1s.
with
There's a
him,
lot
too.
of R2s.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, Modestas isn't some sort of like, I can see why some people are betting Cerqueira. Won't be me because from what I have watched on tape from the regional scene, wasn't all that impressive. He's fighting really low level opponents, and then the fight against Ibo, I mean, he basically just like never even got going there. He was just like stalled against the fence and just eating shots until I think it was Goddard maybe stepped in, had to stop the fight.
It was done. Goddard. It was a good stoppage.
Yeah, 100%. It was like, one of those things. It's like you're trapped up against the cage. You can't fall down, but it's like you're not defending yourself. So is what it is. Yeah, kind of tempted by like Bukauskas inside the distance minus 120 because somebody's going. Somebody in theory, somebody's getting finished, but like maybe Raffael, maybe this is like the second time he goes to decision. Anyway. Bukauskas is the pick for me. May get to some Modestas Bukauskas inside the distance rather than the KO prop because like there's really not nearly enough differentiation between the inside the distance and the KO. Not that Modestas is some sort of submission savant, but might as well just pay the extra juice to cover your tracks on that front. But we are just about out of time. Cody, before we go, hit him with the PRP.
I mean, there's a lot of underdogs, but again, if you guys watch the show all the time, I take flack for not taking enough underdogs. So it's like there's no rhyme or reason. It's just what's the card.
People are gonna be mad in the comments section, regardless, Cody.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is some cards it's like you can really get behind the favorites, and some cards you really get behind the underdogs. I'll admit I could not tell you at the top of my head the last time I thought more underdogs than favorites would win, and I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. But we got to make sure we're on the same side of the winners. Also, for parlay purposes, yeah, it's going to be an absolute minefield. But hopefully we can navigate that minefield, make some stuff happen. Henry Cejudo, plus money, dog number 1. Brendan Allen, dog number 2. Rob Font, dog number 3. Gene Silva, Julius Walker, dog number 4, Ion Cutelaba, dog number 5, Andre Fili, even money, Mansur Abdul-Malik, Javid Basharat, Austin Vanderford, dog number 6, Nursulton Ruziboev, and Modestas Bukauskas to make it rain all up on there, Paul. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There's going to be a bunch of underdogs. This is fist fighting. I would say these are a lot of even matchups. It just comes down to like one small thing. God, this guy should kick my guy's ass. But I got this little takedown advantage. I got this little cardio advantage. They need to go out there and utilize those small little advantages to the absolute best of their abilities and pick up the win. So you mentioned it. There's so much regional show action as well that, yeah, it's like, yeah, between one championship and LFA and KSW and Octagon MMA, UAE Warriors. I'm not even going to jump into all of it. I'm just saying there's so much stuff out there that if you don't feel comfortable with a certain pick, avoid it. I'll tell you how much they're avoiding it randomly. I'll give you a random. This is the PRP. Ruziboev. This is the PRP as in I just read it to you. These are all the guys, right? Julius Walker, Vanderford, Fili, Henry, Brandon Allen, Gene Silva. You're not even taking all the big favorites or the big
I lined it up on coolbet.com,
Ion,
Cody. And
Javid.
it's 2057 to 1. So, $10 would pay $22,000.
No, that's a lie.
Can't see how it loses.
Because on my end, what was it, 22,000? Yeah, no, on my end, that's an 11. Oh, who didn't go through? 11. There's 12 fights. Oh, it might have been. They're not even letting you use Vanderford.
They are on Coolbet, Cody.
Coolbet's where you got to go. Listen, if you've got a Coolbet account, that's legit. If you don't, it'd be a lot cooler if you did. But yeah, these other books, they're because the fight just got added. Those 11 guys don't even add Vanderford to that point. Those 11 guys, a $100 bet would pay $130,000. So with Vanderford on there, a $100 bet pays like $210,000. Most books won't even take a $100 bet on that parlay. I'm not suggesting you bet $100 on it. I'm just saying
there's lots of places, a lot of ways for this to go wrong. I will say.
Oh, what could possibly go wrong? However, I've done better, and I'd do it again. I'm just hoping it's Saturday. That's it. That's all. It'll happen. I'm just hoping it happens sooner rather than later. This Saturday sounds about right to me. Until then, over on the Patreon, we'll do a regional show stuff. Best of the rest, all the B-level stuff. Paul, in fact, is even posting some C-level stuff. So I appreciate the level of dedication. But that show's tomorrow. Weigh-in show potentially Friday, depending on if anything interesting happens. And upwards and onwards. I'm actually doing my own show on Saturday, so I can't really watch these things live. But, I'll find a way, 100%. And that's about it for me, Paul. Excited for the card. It's going to be a violent card, but we'll also hit some good over-under props, I think, over on the Discord channel.
Yeah, I don't even know what B-level, C-level even means, Cody. I just look at the books that are available to me.
You're putting some salty stuff up
for the regional level stuff, and I go, if there's lines to be played, there could be money to be made. If you want to get in on the regional scene stuff, not most books won't have it, so it's like you have to be willing to like play maybe at some like less accredited place. Like Coolbet does not have a lot of these things, so it's like you have to play at maybe a little bit some questionable places sometimes. It's all worked out for me, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and there's definitely some good edges to be had. So links are in the description for joining the Patreon over there, join the Discord, be able to muck it up with us a little bit, and there's some other sharp people over there sharing their bets and concepts and ideas on a day-to-day basis. So we've had a lot of fun with that. And then all of the stuff about joining up with Coolbet, promo code DOP, everything, or Dog or Pass, all the information you could possibly need. And if you're watching on YouTube or a podcast or whatever, it's down in the description. So that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Jared and Cody Saptic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck. Ow, ow, ow.